But my beats, they are hard.
Indiana. What up? It's the BCSN SportsWrap. I am Brian Fulford in my home studio. Excited Pacer fan here. A.D. Drew on the road as usual on a Sunday night. Drew, let the people know where you at. How you doing?
I am on my way back to South Georgia from Alabama.
From Alabama.
Yes.
Alabama, as I like to call it these days.
In the general neighborhood.
It's good to be back here on another It's good to be back on another episode of the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. Thanks to everybody watching us on YouTube and on Facebook, wherever you're watching us. You might even be watching us on Instagram Live or on X at MyBCSN1, the number one. Make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We are a part of the Black College Sports Network, which you can find our YouTube page at MyJBN Online. We are part of the Jericho broadcast networks. So good to be on another Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to all of the moms out there, all the moms, the stepmoms, the moms. I don't know the sports moms,
the
aunts. Yep, the aunties. Yeah,
the daughters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on now. If you're a daughter and you're obviously you got to be a mom first. That's the pre-qualifier.
No, but the daughters who have their own children.
Well, then that makes them moms. Right. That makes them moms, Drew.
Right, but for people
come on,
like me who have daughters who have children, happy Mother's Day to the daughters. Who have their own set of children.
They're moms. That makes them moms. What are you talking about?
It's still hard for me to fathom them as mother when we're my child first. You don't understand. You have to have children of that age to understand.
All right. Okay. All right.
They moms when the grandkids get on your nerves.
I got you. All right. All right.
Get your children. Not children.
Cheering. Right. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming in early. Want to encourage you to go ahead early, hit that thumbs up and the like button. However, especially hit the thumbs up on YouTube, hit the like button on Facebook. Just encourage you to, if you want to be a part of the Black College Sports Network or be a part of the Jericho Broadcast Networks, you can join our YouTube page. YouTube.com/MyJBN Online. Promise coming soon. There are going to be some great opportunities on merch and some other things that we're going to be doing here. But more importantly, you're supporting HBCU media, Black college media, Black media, Black-owned media. So all of your donations, we appreciate those who have signed up to be members, 3 different levels, and we can choose to donate and give. It's definitely appreciative. So we thank all of you. Again, youtube.com, MyJBN Online/join. All right.
How you doing this Mother's Day, Brian?
Thanks for asking. Of course, I'm part of the club that we've lost our moms and we don't have our direct mom. But Drew, I choose to look at, and I kind of told my sister this because she, obviously, I don't know, maybe it's just because of how I'm wired. It hits her really hard days like these, and what I shared with her is kind of what I tweeted out earlier. I'm choosing to pour my love and appreciation into the mothers that are raising boys to be men, daughters to be women, strong, independent, educated, respectful, loving, faithful, just the same way my mother poured into me and my sister. And so, to those women, my aunties, and so on, I'm choosing to say Happy Mother's Day and pour my love and appreciation into them in the spirit and memory of my mother. That, one out a little bit for her and just kind of pouring all my love and appreciation. That's all.
I, I think you're fading, Brian.
It could be you, Drew. Remember, you're the one on the road. So
You know the chat never lies, Brian.
the chat never lies. So if you didn't hear what I said, obviously the people in the chat will let me know. But no one's kind of said anything just yet. So
Yes, yeah. Give it a minute because they're on the delay from us. So we'll give it a minute.
all
They're on
right,
about a 15-second delay.
yeah. And how are you? How are things for you today?
Man, I'm not gonna go into my adventure today, but I am going to predicate it with this. And as you know, prior to me getting into collegiate athletics, I spent probably a decade or so of my life as a restaurant manager.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to explain to people who never worked in that industry that you've got to time this right when you want to take mom, sister, whoever out to eat today. Because if you get to the restaurant after 12 o'clock, and 12 o'clock is pushing it, you're going to be there a while. There will be a wait. There's nothing that you can do about it. Because from my decade of doing it, the 3 busiest days in a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant, I'm not talking about McDonald's, y'all, but in a sit-down restaurant are, number one is Mother's Day. Number two, if you have a college football team in your city, HBCU, HWCU, the number 2 day is homecoming. And the number
Okay.
3 day is Valentine's Day. Those are the 3 days you want to avoid. So some people just don't understand it. And all you see is people that are complaining, like, why is it taking so long? We got a 30-minute wait. We got an hour wait. Well, what the heck do you expect? Everybody to decide to take mama out today. So if you don't get in there while everybody else is still in church on Mother's Day, you might as well hang it up. Because as soon as the benediction is over, they going to get some fried chicken and some mashed potatoes and collard greens and all that good stuff. Yeah, that's a public service announcement.
What? Yeah, I was more of a fan of cooking or preparing something internally, or at the house. I can't get with the whole going out to eat thing. That's kind of interesting. I don't know.
See, here's the thing, Brian. You don't cook in my mother's kitchen. Now you go outside and fire up the grill, but you don't cook in my mother's kitchen. That's her kitchen.
I got you. Hopefully everybody out there, you guys are having a good Mother's Day. And shout out to all the people jumping in early. Appreciate you guys jumping in. Hello, HBCU Band Talk, Theron. Appreciate you jumping in. Coach Farasi checking in. Appreciate you coming in as well. Tamara T, we say hello to you. Good to see you, Tamara. Hello to you, A&T Roy. Already trying to start something. That's all right. Chuck Hunt checking in from Monroe, Louisiana. Appreciate you. Christopher Dukes got his popcorn ready. I don't know why Chris got his popcorn ready. I missed something. Something going on this past week, Drew, that I missed. What's Chris coming in with popcorn for?
See, I on my phone, I thought it was beer.
You thought that was what, beer?
Like beer emojis on the phone, man.
It could have been. It could have been. It could have been. Blue Jacket for Life. Good to see you. The folks online said it was my connection. So I don't know how much was heard, but moving forward. One of the bigger stories over the course of the past week, of course, things happening at Florida A&M University. And so our immediate thoughts go to Florida A&M, and they are recovering right now. The more important topic is the recovery and the rebuilding process happening in Tallahassee. And we're not talking about we're talking about things related to Mother Nature. I don't know, some of the rest of y'all folk want to talk about other stuff. But what's more important right now is the things happening on the ground in Tallahassee. When I believe this was it Saturday morning, Drew?
Friday morning.
Yeah, Friday morning is when we started getting word that reports of tornadoes causing damage and power outages in the Tallahassee area. And I'm looking at some storm analysis here from WTXL, one of the local stations there in Tallahassee.
Isn't that where Allison Posey is at now?
Ooh. Geez, I know she switched from one to the other.
I think she's at TXL now.
Okay, maybe TXL. But apparently, looking at the radar report, 3 tornadoes simultaneously appear to have come through the area with winds 7 to 100 miles per hour. Literally tornadoes. Now, that's not common for that area. And actually, the same storm system came through Alabama and even did some damage around Tuskegee University, correct?
That is correct. Similar, I believe, the same storm system. Similar type damage, not as extensive as to what happened in Tallahassee, but there was damage to the campus of Tuskegee University, also from the same system. Now, there is one big difference, Brian, in what Tuskegee did and had to do as far as beginning their recovery process to what FAMU has done and is beginning to do with its recovery process.
What's that?
Tuskegee had graduation the next day, less than 24 hours after the storm passed through.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to all the officials in Macon County, which is where Tuskegee is, City of Tuskegee, and Tuskegee University for the cooperation between the 3 entities to literally get the campus, get the trees cut, get the campus cleaned up, get the Lincoln Gates, the one picture that you may have seen a lot on Facebook where the tree went into the brick Tuskegee sign is the Lincoln Gates at Tuskegee, which is the main entrance to Tuskegee University. So get all of that cleaned up. I was actually in Tuskegee on yesterday not for graduation, but I was there for another purpose, and I rode through campus, and I was amazed based on the pictures that I saw Friday afternoon, and I'm talking about 3, 4 o'clock on Friday, to when I went through there Saturday afternoon. I was amazed at how that campus looked, as
Mm.
far as everything was off to the side, and yeah, you could tell something had happened, but I expected fences to be down, trees to still be all over the place, debris to be everywhere. No, that campus looked in the best shape that it could in less than 24 hours. People did not, and maybe that's why it happens like this. People didn't have time to think, have time to let the politics get in the way, to have all the bitching and power struggles and everything like that. They knew this big day was coming on the tomorrow. All these people had these hotels. They were coming to town, and there was an expectation that my child had been here 4, 5, some of them 6 years. They were gonna get their degree tomorrow, and it happened. So, and if anybody's familiar with Tuskegee's campus, for what I was able to see, the damage started around the Bremer Gates, around the St. Andrew's Church area, went straight down Old Montgomery Road, uh, past past the Oaks, which is Booker T. Washington's house, through the main gates, around the corner, got the east gates, and all the way down to old Tuskegee Institute High School or Tuskegee Institute Middle School, depending on your age. And there was damage all, and it looked like that was the only area that I saw damage in, riding through town.
Mm. Yeah. Well, they did a great job getting that campus ready for graduation. So congratulations, and on thoughts and prayers and safety. I don't know how much power was lost. Obviously, in certain places they were able to get power back up. I know in Tallahassee, I saw, as of this morning, I saw there was a report that 50,000 in Tallahassee are still without power. So significant damage. And then if anybody has seen any of the pictures, I know we retweeted some of the various photos from the ONG Strike Zone Twitter feed. I'm sure if any of you follow people or friends from FAMU, I'm sure they've retweeted some things. I know HBCU Game Day Vaughn Wilson was on the ground. Obviously, he is based in Tallahassee. I think he even filed a report. One of the more visual images was one of the stadium lights on the east side of the Bragg Memorial Stadium was literally bent like a straw. Like if you know how you would normally take a straw and fold it in half. Yeah, one of the
Yeah,
light poles, it was folded in that manner. So
and one of the lights part of the last renovations at Bragg, or am I thinking about another situation?
I do not know that. Maybe our good friend Kelvin Roger is supposed to be joining us tonight. Haven't quite got the confirmation, but Kelvin may be able to shed some light on that in terms of the lights. I know when they done over the 2 years that they've done the renovations, the east side was the first stage of the renovations, and then the following year or the following off season is when they did the west side with the press box.
Yes.
Tamara T, who's in Tallahassee, said pictures don't hit like seeing the damage in person. So again, the visuals are pretty dramatic, and
And
I
I've got to go to Tallahassee tomorrow to handle some business, so I'm probably going to ride through as best as I can. FAMU's campus also on tomorrow to see, see what damage that is down that direction.
yeah. So be safe heading back into heading back into that area. You know, I'm sure. You know,
And if
like I
there were
said,
any other areas who were affected by those storms on Friday, please put them in the chat. I just knew about those two because unfortunately, that was both of my alma maters who were affected by this same storm. So that's been the focus of my attention is on my two alma maters.
yeah. There was let's see, I'm reading a report here from off of HBCU Sports. FAMU President Larry Robinson declared a state of emergency Friday after the tornado caused damage to the Tallahassee main campus. I think I even saw the governor of the state of Florida issue a state of emergency for 11 counties probably in the Panhandle, Big Bend area. Reading the report says the storm knocked out electricity, damaged roofs, downed trees and utility lines, blocked roadways, and scattered debris across the campus. At least 15 buildings, including the Grand Ballroom, the Banneker buildings, and the old plant operations and maintenance building, suffered some form of roof and water damage. The flashing on Lee Hall was also damaged. This, according to Kendall Jones, the Associate Vice President of Facilities, Planning, Construction, and Safety. So I don't. It'll be interesting. I know there was a, and appreciate that HBCU Band Talk says Lake City was hit as well. Okay, so. And all of this was, I know it hit Tallahassee early morning, right as people were
Going to work,
heading to school, going to work, going to school.
Right. And I don't know if Leon County canceled school,
They did.
but I know some of the southern Georgia counties where I live at canceled school on Friday because of the fear of this storm. And thank God that smarter people took the data in and made the appropriate decision.
Well, you know, one of the things you can never anticipate a tornado. That coming from a kid we grew up in the Midwest, so I don't know about So I know when they tell you that there's a hint of a tornado warning, you just buckle down and you get and usually that's all based on the air pressure and the temperature and the humidity, right? So for tornado type winds to form in Florida is rare. You know, obviously
not
Florida
without a hurricane.
Right, not without a hurricane. Correct. Right.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, Brian, let's let the people of Tallahassee and also Tuskegee count their blessings. School was out. Just think what we would be talking about if this would have happened 3 weeks ago, Brian.
Oh yeah.
Number two, softball was in Gulfport,
Mississippi.
Gulfport, Mississippi. Baseball on the road. So things could have been worse. I think the full track team is not there anymore. Just people who have an opportunity to qualify for nationals are still around for track. Everybody else is pretty much gone this week.
Yeah.
So we could have potentially been talking about the loss of life here, were it not for basically the calendar.
Yeah.
And when you talk about Tuskegee, all athletics are pretty much complete now, except for a couple of people who may be running track. But softball is done, baseball is done at Tuskegee, tennis is done at Tuskegee. So, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
Or one day later in Tuskegee, if this thing would have occurred on Saturday instead of Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just clicking on Vaughn's story here for a quick second to kind of see if he provides any input on that on the lights. Initially over 80,000 residents lost power. Again, this happened all between 7 a.m. and 7:30 on May 10th. So,
yeah. And I'm pretty sure by the time the ONG strike zone comes on Wednesday, there'll be some information on those who want to make donations to the FAMU and Tallahassee community where to make those donations. Brian, am I correct?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure, because I know, again, there was a town hall meeting by Florida A&M today. Matter of fact, I think it's happening right now, to give people updates on the storm. I'm just reading from Vaughn's article regarding the Florida governor's state of emergency statement, in which he immediately unlocked access to funding to make emergency repairs. So yeah, the help is needed, and the help is available for FAMU from the government, from the city, from the state, and the city. So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So we keep all of the people in Alabama and Florida, maybe even Georgia, who might have been affected by this storm, in our thoughts and prayers. And we hope that we hope that the funds are there to be able to make changes. Again, summer schools are starting up pretty soon, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how that'll affect summer classes, which I believe, matter of fact, summer session A was starting this upcoming week for FAMU in Tallahassee. So that's your first.
They may have to push everything online for the summer or something along those lines.
Yeah, no speculating, but yeah, it's possible. It's possible. We'll have to wait and see. All right, coming up in the show, we've got some softball championships to talk about. I know our good friend Charles Edmond is going to join the show at the top of hour one. He did a great job. He called every game of, I think it was all 12 games of the SWAC
14.
softball tournament. There were 14?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, 14 games in the SWAC softball tournament. Of course, Jackson State defeated our beloved Rattlers in the championship game. Jackson State going unbeaten in the SWAC softball tournament. They finished. I don't know where Jackson State finished in the regular season. I think they either finished second or third.
Second. They finished second.
They did finish second. Okay.
They finished second ahead of Bethune, who finished third. And
okay.
Alabama State finished fourth on the East.
Right. So we'll get into some of those big storylines about that with him coming up on the other side. Well, we'll bring the game. We'll talk about the tournament before we get into more details with him. MEAC tournament also finished. A big win for Morgan State, as they kind of carried on their winning ways. Morgan State gets a title, so I know there's some people who were happy about that. We'll also talk about baseball news. Bluefield State getting a big win as well over a very tough opponent. We'll talk about that and a little bit more in this episode of the BCSN Sports Wrap as we kind of recap the week that was and start kind of looking down the road at what's to come. You guys hang in there with us. We appreciate you watching. This is the BCSN Sports Wrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Bryan Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan Fulford, A.D. Drew here. A.D. on the road coming back from somewhere in Alabama. Of course, me being at home, having finished watching my Pacers put a beat down on the New York Knicks to even up the series 2-2. Drew, I was feeling so confident after the first two games of the Eastern Conference semifinals that I grabbed the Indiana Pacers to win the series at plus 300. I'm feeling pretty good about my bet now.
Well, if the Knicks wouldn't be beat the heck up with all the injuries, it would maybe a more competitive series, but seems like every game New York loses another key player and their rotation gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah, it's an interesting, you've heard that usually the playoff lineups get smaller or lineups get smaller during the playoffs, right? Where you go from maybe you playing 10, 11 guys and it gets down to maybe 8. Well, the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, he really runs 5 hard. I mean, he runs his starting 5 well into almost 37 to 40 minutes a game. And I've been hearing this narrative over the last week and a half about how many minutes he plays his guys. And I keep thinking these guys are conditioned. I mean, these aren't old guys that he's running 38 minutes on night. I mean, the one guy, Josh Hart, playing 45, 46 minutes. Hell, he might even play all 48 if I'm not mistaken. But these are young guys. And so they're conditioned. But the problem is, obviously, the playoffs, where you don't go, you're playing almost every other night. Maybe there's a rest day, but usually you're playing with just one day off. And maybe, just maybe, his lack of depth, because he doesn't have much of a bench due to some injuries, it is starting to wear on the Knicks. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm kind of nervous about it, to be honest. I got a cash out option now where I could basically double my investment and get out now at an even series, or I could hang on, with the possibility of winning 3 times my investment. So
I would hold on to this one. I think attrition is going to catch up with New York.
Yeah, that. That's the thing. Game 5 is always the interesting game. And fortunately, I think for the Pacers, Game 5 is Tuesday. There's no extra rest day for the Knicks, right? So the Knicks,
in the second round.
Not in the second round. That's what I love about the second round. So you don't get that extra off day in between home and away, right? It's just like we played every other day now. And so that favors the healthy team especially when you have two even teams. So
Correct.
we'll see. We'll see. Okay. In Norfolk, Virginia, my
Hey,
hometown.
I was gonna say, Brian, can I throw a PSA, another PSA out?
Okay, sure.
And I know some people waiting on us to get into the elephant in the room, but
What's that? MEAC softball?
the other story in Tallahassee.
What happened at Florida State? I know the
thought you was gonna
baseball
say-
stadium is damaged. The baseball stadium is damaged. Is that what you're talking
You gonna
about?
say TCC?
Huh?
Okay. Anyway, let me put this out, Brian. There's a lot of conjecture and banter going on in Twitterverse, internet, Google, etc., etc., etc. Fake book, not Facebook, fake book, and everywhere else. And this all kind of goes back to the Coach Prime days when everything was going on around about Coach Prime. My PSA is, y'all can listen to all that other stuff that you want to, but if you're gonna listen to podcasts about what's going on with this situation, listen to podcasts where somebody has something invested. And when I mean invested in the school. Back when we were trying to listen to all the banter around Coach Prime, I listened to stuff like the 1400 Club, the pregame show, those type of podcasts. For this situation, ONG Strike Zone, Fangs Up podcast, other FAMU-centric podcasts are the things where you really need to listen to it. Everything else, listen to it with a grain of salt, because a lot of people are playing gotcha journalism with this situation. I just had to get that off my chest, man.
Hey, well, that's what we have. That's why you have a platform, so that you can say your opinions and thoughts just like everybody else, I guess. So
yeah,
we know just as little as anybody else. Just got a text from Kelvin. Kelvin, he is doing well, but unfortunately they have no power still.
Okay.
So I don't think we will have Kelvin on tonight. So I didn't know he didn't have power. So I'm glad, but he's doing well from what I could gather. A&T Roy, yeah, I hinted out there, Drew, that I think I'm going to start a pod or a YouTube feed where I do nothing but publicize board meetings. I'm just gonna live stream college board meetings and open network board meetings. I just think that's where I need to get to. A lot of people seem to be interested in our board meetings at FAMU. So I just found that interesting. Just something to do. All right. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things develop. I was hoping, obviously. Yeah, let's see. I'm sure there's some board meetings at Daytona Beach that I could publicize as well. So we'll do that.
And congratulations to the school on the beach for the money that they received for their athletic programs there about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, we gave them a shout out for that.
I hope they vetted people properly.
No, they did. They did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, they did. They did. Anyway, all right. Moving forward, can I move forward? Because I don't have anything. I don't have anything to add.
Beating that horse to death for today.
Yeah, I don't know if you're looking for me to add anything. I don't have anything to add. I don't have anything to say. I've said everything I needed to say on Wednesday's show. Exactly. If you want to go back, if you want to go back and read the look at the podcast, you can check out the BCSN Pod Zone or you can find the show at ONG Strike Zone on YouTube, and you can go back and see and hear my thoughts and Kelvin's thoughts and Marcus's thoughts, and there you go. All right, softball action. You know, obviously, as mentioned, the MEAC and the SWAC had their softball tournaments this weekend, or this past week, rather. Morgan State, who was the top seed going into the MEAC championship, ended up defeating Coppin State twice, 5-1, and then 6-0 to win the MEAC softball championship. This is from HBCU Game Day. With the win, number 1 Morgan State brought home their second conference title in program history. They earned the automatic bid into the NCAA softball tournament, where tonight at 8 p.m., the 64-team field will be revealed. The Bears held the Eagles.
Break that down. We better break that down after during the show.
Oh. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, just depends. The Bears held the Eagles scoreless in the game to win while posting 1 run in the bottom of the first inning and a 5 spot in the bottom of the 5th. Morgan State got on the board initially in the bottom of the first inning off of Melissa Paz, hit an RBI single to center field that drove in Amber Rivas. They went kind of 3 scoreless innings by both teams before the Bears struck again in the bottom of the 5th. Most outstanding coach of the MEAC All-Tournament was Larry Heinlein of Morgan State. Most outstanding player was Victoria Fletcher of Morgan State. So congratulations to Morgan State. I know Howard was
done in 2.
Yeah,
that was the shocker of the tournament to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, speaking of shockers, how about in both cases? I mean, for much of the softball season,
Prairie View was the number 1 team.
Well, no. Where I was going to say is 2 of the top teams. Now, I'm not talking ratings, but I'm talking based on like record.
Yeah.
Now, record-wise, wins was Howard and Prairie View. Howard, I think, had won something like 30 some odd games. I got to pull up the site where I normally go to pull up this stuff. But I know Prairie View had like a 23-1 conference record. They were the 2-time defending champs coming in. But I think we talked about this on our show, didn't we? About the RPI and how they didn't how it was a little fugazi, how it didn't kind of match up with the actual ratings. Right. Didn't we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we talked about that a couple weeks back.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see if I can pull up those ratings. I think I was looking at RPI numbers is what I was looking at. And I'm trying to pull up the MEAC here quickly. So in the MEAC, which, you know, the MEAC doesn't have the greatest RPI rating. So, I mean, Morgan State will probably end up playing the number 1 team in the country. But yeah, I think at the end of the regular season, Howard had a 30-13 record. But it was Morgan who actually, you know, ended up, their RPI zoomed up well ahead of Howard here. But as you mentioned, I mean, Howard took 2 losses quickly, and that was that.
2 in barbecue. Bigger shocker, Brian. Howard 2 in barbecue or Prairie View 2 in barbecue?
I would say Howard. I would go Howard because from an RPI perspective, Howard had one of the best RPIs going into the season. We pointed out there were 4 teams with better RPIs than Prairie View, even though Prairie View had a great record. And that's the difference between the MEAC and the SWAC. The MEAC teams all play each other. The SWAC West only plays the SWAC West. SWAC East only plays the SWAC East. And because of that, Prairie View dominated the SWAC West. Guess who the final 4 teams in the SWAC tournament were?
All
the 4
East
teams
side.
in the East, all East side. So, it was, I think Dr. Cavill was pointing out in one of our chats, he had at one point, he had a running record. I think the West only won 1 game in the entire,
That was
they
Texas.
they
That was
won 2.
Texas Southern, if I remember correctly. I know Texas Southern picked up a win.
They did. Opening day, they picked up a win
Right.
against Bethune-Cookman. And then Prairie View picked up 1 win out of the elimination bracket. And
So
then they
Prairie View
eventually
did get a
lost.
win. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was it. 2 wins. I don't know what the record versus East was, but, they only won two of the, what'd you say, there were 14 games?
14, yes.
Yeah, 2 of the 14 games were won by the West. And essentially, well, what you could say is how many games could the West have played? The West had to play 4.
8.
Probably
8,
at least
they would
8.
have played 10 games.
Yeah. Right. So the other team outside of obviously Jackson State is going to the tournament. The other team that was highly rated in, I think, when that HBCU softball poll was Tennessee State. And they play in the Ohio Valley. Now, obviously, they play in one of the tougher divisions or the tougher conference. Their season came to an end. They finished 25-25 overall, RPI 161. Obviously, they won't continue on to play. There's no at-large opportunities for Tennessee State, unfortunately. Okay, Doc chimes in here. Final record, let's see, the SWAC Western Division 1, Eastern Division 6. And I think that was head-to-head. I'm assuming that's head-to-head. Yeah, so, but it does look like in the Ohio Valley tournament, the OVC, Tennessee State did actually play 4 games. They went 2-2, actually made it to game number 9, which, they won their opening game, then lost in the next game, which put them in the elimination bracket. So they lost in the semis. Then they went to the elimination bracket, won their first game there before losing on Friday in game number 9 versus Southern Indiana. And that probably, if I'm trying to think of the brackets, Drew, that probably would have got them to maybe the finals of the elimination game had they beat Southern Illinois or Indiana.
How many teams are in the OVC competing?
I think it's an 8
In the tournament. Is the team an 8-teamer?
I don't know for sure. 3, 4. There's 10 teams in the tournament, or there's 10 teams in the conference. But I would have, I'm guessing here. I don't know.
I don't think all 10 probably made it to the tournament.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if all 10. So I would say it's probably a lot more likely that there's 8 that played. Hold on, I found a neat little link here. I could tell you, I know exactly. Oh, it's a great link here. Found a link that goes right to the conference tournaments. Yep, it's an 8-team field. Okay.
So they were 1 round away from they were 2 rounds from the championship then. In game 9. Do I have that correct?
Yeah. Well, actually, no.
And
You
Brian,
know what?
don't ask me how I know that stuff off the top of my head.
No. You know what? I don't know, Drew. This is a little different because there was only 12 games played. So I think what it was is there was.
That sounds like 12 games sounds like a 16 tournament.
Yeah, but it's showing 8. So I mean, can you do 8 with 2 teams having a bye, which are 1 and 2 seeds having a bye?
You possibly could, if you have it. It's been done.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the way they're set up. They've got a 7 versus 6 matchup, a 8 versus 5. Then you
that's
have
a double bye. That's a double bye.
okay.
Situation.
Then you have a 7 versus 3. So the winner of the 7-6 plays the 3 seed. The winner of the 8-5 plays the 4.
Yeah, they've got a double bye situation set up in their tournament.
That's odd. Interesting though.
They set that tournament up to allow their better team to have an opportunity to win the tournament.
Yeah. It's a strategy.
8 teams get the tournament experience.
It's an interesting strategy. It's one of those strategies that I have kind of talked about basketball tournaments doing, the SWAC or the MEAC doing, because for one bid leagues, I mean, isn't that what you want to do? Don't you want your best team to have a shot to go to the big dance per se?
I think it's probably more important in any sport that we compete, because we all want to be a league at just about every level, is baseball.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important sport where we need to go with double byes or shorten the tournament to 16s where first round has a bye. Because let's be real, our lack of pitching depth, especially after your number 2 starter. And we're not diving deep into baseball, but I will say this. I get so tired of a lot of times our conference championship is either decided by a bullpen session or a Tuesday starter.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the number of arms that we have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if I had to, I'm looking at here and the top teams according to the rankings in softball, Texas and Oklahoma State. Actually, Texas seems to be the predominantly number 1 team, with Oklahoma State and Tennessee following right behind them. If I do a quick glance at the RPIs, and I'm only doing this to kind of measure out and see, okay, where might Morgan State play? Because Morgan State being a part of the MEAC ranked as the 32 rated conference. So obviously there are 32 conferences. That just inherently.
It sounds like Tennessee to me, unless there's a closer team.
Actually, well, the top 2 are, well, okay, so your top RPI team, okay, your top 4
8,
RPI.
you have to go top 8 for
Jesus
baseball
Christ.
or softball.
Well, a lot of them are in the South, so they're going to have to travel, except for Duke. Duke is the number 3 RPI rated team. So I mean, I guess that's
That'll
your
be
close.
Where they at. That's the closest one. It sounds like.
Well, you got Texas, Oklahoma 1 and 2, Duke 3, Tennessee 4. Then you have LSU 5, Florida 6, UCLA 7, Stanford 8. That's the top 8.
I think you cut out. Give me 7 and 8 again, Brian.
7 is UCLA, 8 is Stanford.
So sounds like Jackson State will be going to LSU or Tennessee. I would vote on LSU. And Morgan State will be going to Duke. We'll see in about an hour how right I am.
Yeah. I'll take a look here and see how quickly I could pull up. There's only 60. There's no. Hey, the good thing is there's no first four. There's no. There's no first four. So only 64 teams get in, 64 bids. So I'll take a look and see if any of these other schools or conferences are lower rated than Jackson State or Jackson State in the SWAC and Morgan in the MEAC. But coming up on the other side of this short break, we're going to talk to the man who called the games in Gulfport, Mississippi. We're going to talk about the SWAC softball tournament and maybe even get a short preview of the SWAC baseball tournament, as he also will be doing some games there in Atlanta, Georgia, for the SWAC baseball tournament. We're going to talk to good friend Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Sports Radio Network. So we'll talk to him in just a second. Hang in there with us. We appreciate you watching us on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan A.D. here, and joining us right now, good friend of the program, Charles Edmond at Tallman Radio is where you can find him. Charles, how you doing tonight?
Good evening, gentlemen. How you doing?
Man, we're doing well,
Doing fine, my brother.
I just want to give my thoughts and prayers, Brian, to the folks down in Tallahassee. You know, they had pretty bad weather a couple of days ago, and some of our umpires for the softball tournament were from Florida. As a matter of fact, one guy was from Jacksonville, and he was checking on his house while all that weather was taking place, and so his house was okay, had power outages. So thoughts and prayers with the folks in Tallahassee. I saw some of the pictures, some damage done there on campus and some of the facilities. So hope everything works out where they can get that stuff back up and going.
Definitely. From what I saw, some reports that there's still about 50,000 without power, and then I know our good friend Kelvin Rozier. He texted me earlier because we thought we might have him on the show. He is one of those 50 some odd thousand without power still. a tough weekend. And when any of that kind of stuff happens, the rush for gas and other things, ramps up. But we're Florida, and we're in Florida. We're used to that kind of stuff. It's not hurricane season, so we're a month ahead of what we're used to in terms of dealing with that kind of stuff. So yeah. But you guys caught a little bit of the weather system apparently on Friday morning. Am I correct?
Yes, we did. It was a lot of thunder, a lot of lightning, and a brief spurt of heavy rain about 7:30, 8 o'clock Friday morning. It was a quick hitter, in and out. That's that same system that impacted Tallahassee and Jacksonville. But once it got to Gulfport, a lot of thunder, a lot of lightning, and a lot of rain. The good thing is those fields over there at the Gulfport Sportsplex, they drain well, and we only were delayed an hour. But the way it looked, the way that stuff came, it was dangerous lightning. I mean, it was loud. But the conference did a good job in pushing everything back, and making sure everybody was safe. And I think everything was good on that front.
Overall, how would you? I mean, is this year 2 or 3 at this complex for the conference?
I think it's year 3. Year 3 of it in Gulfport. And the commissioner, I interviewed him Friday, and he kind of talked about that right off the bat. The economic impact of the teams being there, hotels and meals and all that good stuff that comes with that. Everyone apparently in Gulfport, from politicians on up and down the line, are pretty pleased with the tournament being there. So I would imagine that the tournament is going to be in Gulfport for the foreseeable future. We SWAC fans, and we all talk about this in terms of trying to keep these championships in one locale. And the commissioner admitted it doesn't help anyone to bounce it around like we've seen for the basketball championships, like we've seen for baseball and even softball at times. So it looks like the softball tournament is in Gulfport to stay. And so it's just a matter now of seeing these other sports to see how it's going to work. Baseball's on deck next. And, some people are talking about Atlanta. I think Georgia Tech and the folks over there are bringing a pretty good deal to Atlanta to keep the baseball tournament there. This will be year 2 of that deal. But I just think having the tournaments in one locale instead of bouncing around, I can name probably 10 different places where the softball tournament has been. I can name 10 different places where the baseball tournament has been. I can name 10 different places where the basketball tournament has been. So I think, the commissioner admitted, bouncing around doesn't help anyone, doesn't help the fan bases, doesn't help the bottom line. Just trying to find a place in which it'll stick and stay. And hopefully what we've got going on right now in these locations will definitely stick and stay.
So let me ask this. Given the various places that you have witnessed or been a part of for these tournaments, how do you rate, I don't know if you want to rank top 3. Where does Gulfport fall amongst your top 3?
I think Gulfport is number 1, and only because of the fact that they have multiple fields, because we know weather this time of year is a factor. And so when you have multiple fields, last year, as a matter of fact, we had significant rain delays, and they were able to spread the games out on several fields to get caught up. So I like Gulfport. I just like the Gulf Coast period. So I would Gulfport number 1. Another place that had multiple fields where the tournament had been is Irondale, Alabama. The tournament was in Irondale for a number of years. I like Irondale, and Irondale had 2 fields. So you can play 2 games at one time, and you can actually speed the tournament up a little bit because you got multiple fields. So I would put Gulfport 1. I would put Irondale 2. And then I would probably put Alabama State. The tournament's been at Alabama State. Alabama State's got some real good facilities, as you know, but they only have 1 field. So, you have to kind of hold your breath and hope the weather cooperates. But Gulfport is a really nice venue, turf. When it rains, you don't have to worry about being delayed too long. I think the Gulf Coast region, warm weather and all that, if you can dodge the rain and the lightning and all that other stuff, I think the environment, the grandstands, it's been great turnouts. And I think Gulfport is probably, my number 1 for me.
So the grandstands in terms of the crowd, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm going to ask about it looked like and sounded like, obviously, but I didn't get I don't think the production crew, by the way, great job. I mean, the people that you work with, I think I heard you mention a few names, so I'm sorry if I don't recall. I'll give you a chance to shout them out here in a second, but they did a great job with the production. Outstanding job of covering all the angles. Even we, of course, for us, get our first win in the SWAC tournament for FAMU. There was great coverage, but even the replay coverage of being able to provide instant replay, the coverage and the camera angles had to be all in the right spot. They did a great job. But I was asking more about the crowd and the bleachers and stands. Do you think it's ideal? It sounds like you do think it's kind of ideal for the SWAC and the SWAC softball fan base.
It is. I think based on, the teams that were there, based on the fan bases that follow those teams, the grandstands are covered for the most part, and you definitely want that because fans don't want to sit out in the sun. We were covered. We had a couple of tents, and so it was good for us, and I think it's good for the fans. So I think that part you can check both those boxes on that part about it. But as far as the camera crew is concerned, James Crenshaw, who does a lot of production work for the SWAC and the SWAC Digital Network, he's got 3 youngsters actually on the cameras. And each and every year I see the replays get better and better. The framing of it, how you can slow it down, rewind it. I mean, frame by frame by frame, you can get the umpires can get a really good look in terms of safe, out, whatever the case. And I thought they did a really good job. And I stressed it during the broadcast. What you saw during the broadcast is what the umpires saw. So in real time, it's not like the umpires are looking at one angle and you're looking at something else. No, what the umpires are looking at as they're rewinding it back, you're looking at it in real time. So that gives you kind of a closeness, a real-time feel in terms of what do you think the call is. There were some that were obvious, but there were some that were surprising. I talked with the umpires about, the bang-bang plays at first, and they kind of explained to me what to look at. You got to look at the squeezing of the glove at first. When that ball hits the glove, the squeezing of it as compared to the foot pressure on the bag, as compared to just towing the bag. Just little extra nuances like that, help at least me and hopefully help the folks at home to kind of understand how that play is looked at. It was close. There was probably a dozen close plays at first base. Some obvious, some not. And you just, it's a judgment thing. And the umpires had to take a good, hard look. But I think for the most part, they got, the vast majority of them right.
So the old
thing,
thing
Charles, I was going to say one thing, Charles, that I noticed watching the coverage, that you rarely saw a call overturned, meaning that we had good crews. They got it right on the field in real time because you rarely will see them go to the monitor and overturn a call.
Yeah, I think if I were to guess, I think there were probably maybe 2 or 3 overturned calls. And so I think, for the most part, they got it right. And I just, but obviously the big question is balls and strikes. That's subjective. And we could talk about that all day long. Fans were, and it's tough for fans. You're cheering for your favorite team. But when you're looking at it from an angle, and I talk with the umpires about that, like they hear the noise, but they have to drown that stuff out. I think that got the more attention, probably more so than anything. The obstruction versus the interference on the base pass, that there were probably 4 or 5 plays of that nature that we've got to do a little bit deeper dive into to kind of break down the obstruction and interference rules, because that was a big factor, especially at second base, where Coach Patterson was very adamant early in that game the other day. And, it was at a point where she was ready to protest and she couldn't do it. But, that's how adamant she was in terms of, those calls in that moment. So, I mean, it was pretty intense, but I think the umpires did the best that they could to try to explain to everyone. I would try to do, if there was a suggestion, I would make it. I'm gonna talk to James Crenshaw about it. It may not happen, but in the NBA, when there's a play review, there's a microphone at midcourt, and the referee comes up and says, we're going to review whether or not it was a flagrant 1 or flagrant 2. I think maybe in the SWAC tournament, maybe have a mic right there where the umpire can just say, hey, we're looking at safe at first, out at first, whatever. And maybe fans will understand that. I don't know. I mean, I think it can be easily done because you got, a camera right there, the microphone, you can mic that up. I don't know if that's something we would do, but that's something, now that I think about it, I think we should at least take a look at to see so fans will know what's going on.
Definitely. Given the fact that where we are in sports today, where replay, look, we've kind of crossed that Rubicon where replay is a part of sports. You can't put that back in the bag. You have to embrace it but continue to slowly move forward. So, like you said, people are seeing things in other sports, and that's what, when they come to the games now, that's what they're craving. That's what they want. So they want that explanation.
Yes.
And I know whether it be them giving it to you, but everybody can't hear your broadcast. So us at home, you do a great job of explaining it to us, but the people in the ballpark and the PA guy, they don't, he's just working off of what he sees. So yeah, that level of transparency or that level of interconnectedness with what is happening in sports is a great next step to take. Definitely. I was going to ask you about that play in a second, but yeah, go ahead, Drew. Go ahead. Hold on, Drew's on the road, so his if his signal pops in and out, that's because he's traveling. We can't hear you, Drew. All right, so while we wait for Drew to get in a better signal, he just dropped, so he'll come back here in a second. Let me ask you about that play you just mentioned with Coach Patterson of Florida A&M, in which you said she almost played the game in pro. I must have missed that. I must have probably got called away to do something. Was that in the final game or the first game against Jackson State?
It was the final game.
Oh, in the championship game.
Yeah, it was. And look, explain the play. Explain the play. What happened? Because I must have missed that. I mean, there was a moment when I had to leave. And I had to step away from the computer. Well, there was a play, at second base in which a stolen base in which the feeling was that there was interference or obstruction, and they challenged it. She challenged it. She lost the challenge, and there were several conversations held. And once she lost the challenge, that should have been the end of it. Based on what I was told, is that if she pushed the envelope any further on it after it was reviewed and after she lost that argument, she could have been ejected from the game.
Wow.
But the conference felt like, and the director of umpires, because the director of umpires was actually in that conversation down the third base line. That's something that you don't see very often. You don't, but with such high stakes, you can understand it. And so Coach Patterson, I get it. I mean, hey, you're playing for all the marbles, but the protest that wasn't going to stick. I just think she just felt like in that moment, the call going against her was a little bit adamant, and she smiled about it afterwards. I think she just wanted to milk it for as much as she could, but I think at the same time she's fighting for a team, and so you appreciate that from that perspective. But the one thing that we've got to get, I think, as far as an explanation, is obstruction and interference on the bases going forward. And I'm gonna do a much better job in getting more clarity on that, because in softball you see a lot of that intertwined. In baseball, not quite as much, but in softball there's that situation where, for example, play at home, the catcher cannot block the plate if he doesn't, or if she doesn't have the ball.
Right.
That can't happen, because that's how the collisions happen.
Right.
If you got the ball, then you have every right. But if you don't, you cannot block home plate. And so that's something that, when you look at all of that, coaches are looking at that kind of stuff. So I think I need to do a better job in explaining. I think next year too, what I might try to do, this is probably not going to happen, and because the director of umpires is bouncing around, I would like to see if some of those calls that we can explain and get it from the director of umpires, because she's there. I don't know if that's going to happen. That probably won't happen because she's got other things going on. But I just think you want a rules expert. You see it in the NFL. You see it in the NBA. Maybe we can do that at the SWAC level. It's something I got a clear protocol on. Probably not going to happen, but it's just, you always want to try to improve the product. And I think hearing from the director of umps for baseball and softball, I think will help some.
All right, Drew, I think we got you back with a better signal connection here. What was your question for Charles? Go ahead. All right, maybe not. Maybe not. We don't have Drew. Okay. So look, I need. Yeah, Drew, are you there?
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. Are you
Yes.
hearing? Okay.
All right. Y'all can't hear me because I didn't see me on the screen. All right. Charles, I was going to ask you about the replay. And do you think we need to go and have more replay during the season so that come tournament time, coaches better understand the application of it, when to use their challenges, when not to use their challenges? Because to my knowledge, the only time we really use it is during the tournament.
Yeah, and when you're playing these midweek games against other competition, you do have replay there. I'm gonna say yes. Yes, we probably do need it, but it's probably not on the agenda anytime soon. You know, it took us, and I hate to say it, but it took us years to get replay for football to get everybody on board. You got to now have a pitch clock on the field to be able to do the pitch count. It's taken some time to get that. Now, the umpires for softball kept the time on the field with their stopwatch, and I was told by the umpires just the day of the tournament that there was only one occasion in which there was a close to being a pitch clock violation. So the pitchers were getting the ball out fairly quickly. But to answer your question, yes, we do. But is it likely anytime soon? I doubt it. That's just another expense that has to happen, and I just think that's something that right now is probably not going to happen at this point unless it's mandated. You know, there's some mandated stuff with baseball right now with other stuff and infrastructure, padded fence, and all of that stuff. But I think instant replay for baseball, I think in the SWAC is kind of a long way off.
Yeah. I also want to give a shout out to your partner in crime there for all 14 games. Simone Hicks did an outstanding job bringing us coverage from down on the field, kind of getting the inside scoop to what was going on down there and relaying that up to you guys. And you guys had some very interesting conversations about some non-baseball stuff also.
Yeah.
Broadcast.
Yeah. I this is my first time working with Simone Stanley, and I really appreciated her knowledge and her checking me on music because she's into that stuff, and it's a lot of stuff that I used to be a DJ once upon a time. By the way, for folks who might not know, I used to be I love, even to this day, I love house music. I love a little bit of rap, and I used to blend and mix that stuff. You hear that stuff on radio stations, on satellite radio, and I used to do that. I used to learn how to do that with Two Techniques turntables back in the day, and I kind of miss that stuff. But some music I should know, but I don't. And Simone kind of get me to that. And in between half innings, they would play certain songs and certain music, and I knew some of it, a lot of it I didn't. And she said, "You got to be kidding me." And so what?
We got to remember what generation Simone is in, Charles.
Hey, but the music, but Charles, the music, from what I could hear, was not like it wasn't from Simone's era. That's the thing that killed me.
Well, some of it was, some of it some of it was, but some of it wasn't. Some of it was way above her head. Some of it was way above her pay grade and way before her. And a lot of that stuff I knew. But she did tell me this. There's some songs that were played. The artists are from Atlanta. So so she said, when you come to Atlanta, you better be on it. So we're just having a lot of fun with that. But yeah, but Simone is really good. I think for her, and her and I hung out when we were talking with the coaches before. We talked with every coach before every game. And so we were able just to get a feel in the moment of what's going on and in the dugouts and what the coaches are thinking and strategy and all that. So Simone was able to share some stuff, and I was able to share some stuff with her and vice versa. And I think it made it a really good combination. My first time working with her, she works with Tolly Carr on HBCU Game Day, and I was impressed. Looking forward to doing the same thing in Atlanta.
She's an Eagles fan, Charles. So be weary. I'm telling you now. She's a Philadelphia. Don't be fooled by that Atlanta stuff. She's a Philadelphia girl, and so she can. I'm stereotyping.
No. Her and I went back and forth before games. Like, I was ragging her about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and Sirianni and all, and she schooled me on that. Some of it I already knew, but I mean, I just messed with her about what's going on with the Eagles and just all the different changes and Jalen Hurts and all that. So you can't talk bad about the Eagles star, but I will say as the week wore on, she's more of a brutally honest Eagles fan. If the Eagles suck, they just suck. And I'm the same way when it comes to my Rams. I love the Rams, but that Matthew Stafford deal, I was leery of that. They won the championship, but not much else after that. So I'm a little hardcore when it comes to my team. And I think, Simone, she loves the Eagles, but she'll put them in their place if things don't go the right way. And I appreciate that because, you can't talk bad about the Dallas Cowboys. Every year the Cowboys want to win the Super Bowl, whether they're good or not. But you can't tell them anything, and that's true. But I know for some fan bases, if you're brutally honest, and Brian, you love the Colts, but if the Colts stink, they just stink, and I appreciate fans like that because they're telling it like it is.
Yeah.
Anybody from the NFC East, I'm telling you, that whole division is like that whole division is like the SWAC in the pro football. That NFC, all four of those fan bases are like the entire SWAC conference. I mean, you just don't get in a message board with those people, and you don't want to be on a train with those fan bases because it is a mess. Anyway,
it is a mess. I agree with you on that.
Edwin Moore, I'm gonna put you in timeout, Edwin. You're gonna get me in trouble on here. I'm gonna put you in timeout, Edwin. You messing with me. Look, we haven't said. Look, I gotta say this because people will think I'm biased. Congratulations to Jackson State. We spent a lot of time talking about other things, but we got to give credit to the champs. I think, and Drew pointed this out earlier. I think there were two big storylines that came out of this tournament. Of course, Jackson State winning for the first time. It's been, I think I'm reading a report here, 13 years since they won the SWAC title. B, the final four teams were the four teams from the East. Yep. And then C, the defending champs, 23-1, wiped out quickly in the tournament. Drew, Charles, those are some big storylines. What's your reaction to those?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's continue to give credit where credit is due, and let's give individual credit to Kevin Shaky Montgomery, the head coach at Jackson State. And I've said it throughout the week. Kevin Montgomery has been a head coach for 4 different SWAC softball programs. He was an associate head coach at Alabama State the 1 year when they first made it to the finals. Then he was at Alcorn. Then he was at UAPB as head coach, and then Jackson State. So let's give kudos to Shaky Montgomery. Real passionate, real intense, real funny. But, for him to see him hoist that trophy, you don't see a lot of softball coaches in this conference last as long as he has. And for him, I know him personally. And so I was happy for him. I shook his hand on the field after the game. So congratulations to Jackson State. The East obviously was the best conference, but Prairie View was kind of a funny thing because I talked with Vernon Bland when they played Alcorn several weeks ago. And at that time, I think they were 13-1. And he said, we're not playing well. And, and I said, well, coach, you think you're bored? You think your team, because they were it was 42-3 over the last 3 seasons or something like that. And so when you have that kind of dominance, the humanistic element says that you're gonna get bored when you're winning in the manner that you're winning, as long as you've been winning. And so even during the season, that towards the latter end, he felt like his team wasn't playing all that well, even though they were winning games. And I think it caught up with him a little bit. I think they were stunned. I think they were knocked off their feet. And yes, they beat Southern University, but then the reality set in and they just couldn't get that mojo back. And so I just think it was a great run for them. But for Prairie View, clearly it was a totally different team. They just couldn't get the timely hitting. And I think that was the story for a number of teams. Pitching won. Well, no, I asked the question, did pitching win or did hitting lose? And the reality is that some coaches felt like hitting lost because there were timely situations for just about every team that they just couldn't capitalize. Now, was that good pitching or just not executing at the plate? And more coaches felt like it was just poor execution at the plate. Good pitching, yes, absolutely. But there were situations in which teams just didn't get it done. And second and third, nobody out. Second and third, 1 out. Bases loaded, 1 out. You scratch out a run, that's just not going to get it. Especially with some of these other good pitchers. So I just think, for the whole shebang, I just think it was untimely hitting, but really good pitching. You got some young pitchers. FAMU's got one. UAPB's got one. I think you're going to see a lot lower scores in this league the next couple of years because the pitching is going to get better, going to continue to stay young. And I think these scores, I thought it would be astronomical like it always has been. If you told me it was going to be 3-1 in the championship game with FAMU and Jackson, Brian Fulford, I would have said FAMU would have won that game 3-1. I never thought Jackson would have won it 3-1 because Shaky Montgomery says, hey, we're going to put on the show. Bring the popcorn. We're going to score some runs like they did against Alabama State to put them in the loser's bracket. But it didn't happen. 3-1. And, if you like good softball, that was your kind of game. That was your kind of championship matchup.
I will humble myself and say credit to Jackson State because they figured out Zoriana Hughes. They took her out. They knocked her out of the first meeting, and they knocked her out essentially in the second game, and that was our ace. She was our ace, and I love the fact that Samantha Smith pitched a shutout against Alabama State to get to the championship game. But Jackson State figured out something, and that's like I said. I like who was it who just posted? Israel had just posted. Look, Jackson State wasn't expected to win the title, just like they did in volleyball. They took out the team who was the top team in the East, and they had a great tournament run because I think in volleyball Jackson State knocked out Alabama State, who was the top team, and then they took us out, and we were like the second top team. But good to see A.D. Drew here finally back at his home studio. Good to see you, Drew. And correct me if I'm wrong, Charles. The final four teams were the East teams. I know Edwin thinks, Edwin, I'm sorry. No, Prairie View was not they didn't finish technically 4. They would have finished, I don't know, 5th, maybe. 5. Yeah, the top 4 teams were the 4 teams from the East. Definitely.
Yeah, and look, other than Prairie View in the West, I mean, we know what they did, but really that 2, 3, and 4, I mean, I'll give credit to UAPB. First time since 2019 that they made the tournament. Good to see Coach Bumpers in that program, get in. They're on an upward trajectory. A lot of people don't know Coach Bumpers was an assistant baseball coach and head baseball coach at UAPB. And when he was kind of let go there, he stayed in administration. His daughter played softball. And when Shaky Montgomery was there and then he left to go to Jackson State, the administration felt good enough about him to put him as the head softball coach. And he said he had to build things from the ground up. They're going to have a new facility coming up and all that. So UAPB, look out. I mean, I think Coach Bumpers knows his stuff. Good to see them back in the tournament. And I think right now, I think you could say that there are a number of teams that are on the upward trajectory in terms of softball. I think Southern University's got a little work to do. Grambling was a team that was just didn't quite make the tournament, but Texas Southern was pesky. But again, timely hitting was one of the bigger stories the whole tournament. When it came to that, a timely base hit here or there, it was a struggle for a lot of these teams to get it. Now, was it poor at bats or good pitching? I will say good pitching won, but I will also say not getting it done at the plate 1A.
All right, Charles, you keep bringing up pitching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you commented on this during one of the 14 games that you did. But to me, it seemed like there was a lot of good young pitching in this particular tournament. So obviously, we know the game FAMU and UAPB, where both pitchers shut down at least 15 in a row at one point in time in the game. I mean, even though that game went 8 innings, that was a pretty fast doggone game because the great pitching. And that wasn't the only game that had some bright young pitchers where you saw multiple innings where people were going down in order. Just talk about the young pitching in the tournament there, Charles.
Yeah, there are a number of teams, Texas Southern, Florida A&M, UAPB. That's 3 right off the bat that I can just name that when you have a good young pitcher, you can build around that. And so I think going forward, I think if Coach Patterson and Coach Bumpers and Coach Rodriguez of Texas Southern, if they continue to recruit and continue to build, you can have a pretty good staff. And I think, I was surprised at just how good the pitchers are as a freshman. You always hear the statement that when a freshman, you gotta coach them up and love them up because it's going to be a struggle. Not the case at all. And I think that was the table setters as far as the tournament is concerned. So I think we may be seeing a little bit of the changing of the philosophy in SWAC softball, where you're going to see a lot more of these low-scoring games because these pitchers are going to get better. I mean, they're all freshmen. They got a lot in front of them. And I think with the right coaching and the right tutelage, I think they are all going to be pretty good. And I think these teams are going to be pretty good. And so I'm looking forward to it. I enjoy these low-scoring games. I enjoy that 2-1 FAMU UAPB extra inning game where we had one pitcher setting down 16 in a row, another setting down 15. I loved it because that was the ultimate chess match. It wasn't checkers; it was chess. So I enjoy it, and I know fans who might not understand softball, but if you get that's a rarity. That's what you see in the regionals. You don't see that in the SWAC, unfortunately. You see 8 to 7. I looked at it the other day, guys. There was Southern scored 10 runs in that one game, and then you had two other teams score 8. That was it as far as high scoring is concerned. So that sent a pretty good message in terms of how this tournament was going to go. A lot of one-run games, a lot of low-scoring games. I enjoyed it. The chess match was on for every game, with the exception of those 3 that I mentioned. And I think it's a good thing for SWAC softball.
Something else I noticed, Charles, this year was you didn't see the one pitcher warrior for any of these particular teams. All these teams had multiple pitchers. You and I, all 3 of us know we've seen tournaments where a team has rolled that one pitcher for every game of the tournament. No, these teams are starting to build depth in the circle.
I'm not going to go that far. Florida A&M only used 2 pitchers.
Yeah, that was it. That's all we got. That's all we
needed. But in the past, that would have been one pitcher for Florida A&M. So I guess what I'm saying, we're kind of trending in a more positive
direction.
Why
we didn't stick around last time. That's why we didn't stick around after 2 games.
Yes. Yeah, you got to have probably 3 arms, maybe 4. I think Coach Bradley at Alabama State tried to mix and match and give you different looks, which some coaches tried to do. It worked sometimes it didn't. It just depends on how much gas was left in their tanks. But Alabama State, when they won one of their championships, they used one pitcher for the most part, and she ran out of gas. So it's only going to take you so far. I do think you probably need 4 arms. I think you need 4 if you can get it.
That's
3 for sure, 4 maybe a stretch, but I think
3 and a closer.
3 and a closer, but 2. FAMU they went as far as they could with the 2, and I think Coach Patterson, she felt really confident that what she had was enough. Your starting pitcher, like she told me, she's going to pitch till her arm falls off. She wasn't taking her out, but I think it just got to a point. And even in the game to make it to the finals, Brian, I talked with her about that because she was pulled 2 innings left. And I thought maybe, it was kind of correct that she wanted to save her because if she pitched the whole game, how much would she have left? So if you took her out in the 5th, you got a little left in the tank maybe to start that next game. But, I think you got to have 3 to 4 good arms, I think, to kind of get through the postseason. And Florida A&M had 2 and took it as far as they can get it. But I do think in a perfect world, and I think it's a challenge, though. I think it's a challenge to get 4 arms in this conference. You don't see it that often. But if you get 4 good, strong ones and you got one that can close it out, I think you got something, especially once you get to the tournament.
All right, I got to ask you about this, Charles. Of course, I'm a rap. And you mentioned that 2-1 game over UAPB. What is going through your mind in the bottom of the 8th inning on what I call the Little League walk-off with everything that happened transpired on base right there?
You
heard the call, but I want to know what's going through your mind.
Well, I wasn't surprised, actually, because that's what softball's all about. If you got speed, and this is another factor too. Every team in the conference now has speed. You got to have it now. So I think what Coach Patterson was doing, and UAPB is a young ball club for the most part. What was going through my mind is you got to hold the runner at 3rd, no matter what. That's the winning run. The runner at 2nd has nothing. Let her walk to 2nd. It doesn't matter. but you got to do what you can to hold that winning run at third. And I think UAPB just fell asleep at the switch on that play. There is a play that they work on. I think all teams work on that particular play. You got to hold the runner, keep her at third, even though the run at second doesn't really matter, but you cannot let that runner from third break. And I think the first baseman they just didn't execute it. And FAMU's got speed too. So a combination of not being aware of the situation and the fact that Florida A&M's got some pretty good speed in that situation. And I think every coach used speed. There was a lot of pinch running going on, a lot of it. So speed was a factor, especially since these games were close. An extra base hit scores a run from first in a lot of cases. So I just think UAPB just didn't execute what they practiced. And, there are some teams that challenged it. Some teams did the right thing in holding the runner at third. But in that situation, guys, Florida A&M pretty much stole that run. And you just got to give Coach Patterson credit. She's that kind of coach. She's going to roll the dice and gamble sometimes. And it paid off in that case.
And hold on, I think I've got that video queued up here. Hold on, let me see if I can add it properly.
Lays down a bunt. She's going to beat it out. First and third, and now they've got the runner. They're trying to still throw home, and the throw home, she is safe. The Rattlers have taken this one in extra innings.
All right, so that play at first.
The Rattlers just stole the run to win it. And the runner at second enticed the runner from third, and the Lions had to make a decision. The winning run was at third. You had to keep her close. It didn't matter what happened at second. And the tag, too late. Florida A&M.
Good call there, Charles. Good call.
So you clearly saw what happened right there. The runner at first, let her get second, but you gotta continuously watch that runner at third. And that's the whole purpose of that play, is to bait you into focusing on that runner at first. And just enough, a split second, and as Coach Bumpers told me after the game, just a half a second too late on the throw, and I think there was too much focus at first. The runner going to second doesn't even matter. The winning run was at third. And so you got to run that runner back to third and give yourself another opportunity.
Okay, I'm just getting word in
I've got the brackets
Israel
right here in
Carey.
front of me. I've got the brackets in front of me, Brian.
All right, Israel was the first on the scene on this, so we appreciate you, Israel. And then Drew's confirming it. G Boom's confirming it that LSU is who will be the opponent for Jackson State in the opening round.
LSU,
does it show who
Jackson
Morgan's going to play?
State, Cal, and Southern Illinois are in that quad over there. And for
who's the host? Who's the host of that quad?
I'm assuming that's going to be LSU.
It is.
Okay.
Yes, in that quad. And in the other quad where Morgan State is at, Duke, Utah, South Carolina, and Morgan State. Yeah, and it looks like I don't know if these are the actual pairings. They've got South Carolina State, Morgan State on the same line. So I'm not 100% sure if that is the pairing. I'm on NCAA, NCAA.com, softball brackets. And this bracket is a little bit, the way they've got it is kind of tough to understand if that is the true bracket. Okay, I'm pulling up the PDF version of it.
I would guess that South Carolina's the host, and Morgan's probably the 4 seed.
Yeah, Duke is the higher rated team. We were just going through the RPIs earlier. Duke is the number 3 or 4th RPI rated team out of the ACC. But you mentioned who's hosting. They may not be the host school though.
Right.
Okay, and I'm trying to. This bracket is so small. You got to give me a second.
I'm gonna take a second,
okay.
Drew. Hold on. Take a second to figure it out.
Duke and Morgan State. Duke is number 10. Duke plays Morgan State.
Hold on. Take a second, Drew. Take a second. Figure it out. I'm gonna give me a chance to ask Charles a question here. Figure that out, Charles. Let me ask you: The one final question I was going to ask you about the SWAC, and this goes back to obviously Prairie View losing, being bored. Is it time for the SWAC softball and even baseball to figure out a way how to play interdivision games, East versus West? Because if I were on the West, if I were a team on the West, I would be asking for games against the East, because we saw it in baseball. We've seen it in softball, and I'm going to go a step and say we will probably see it again this year or next week in Atlanta. The East is dominating the West. Is it time to start mixing some games in between East versus West?
Yes, but again, that's another one that probably will not happen because of travel, budget, and logistics.
How about just a crossover?
Way back, probably a decade ago, we had what was called the SWAC softball roundup. They used to play in Hattiesburg, and that was kind of a midway point for all the teams. And so that was the venue, that was the avenue to play those type of games. But things have changed. It's probably not. As a matter of fact, I did ask about that years ago. Will we see that, that happening during the regular season? And the answer that I got was heck no. It's just too costly from a financial perspective. The only thing you're going to see in baseball, and it's not going to count if you just want to just play the games. Jackson will play, let's say, a Grambling. Jackson will play a Southern. It won't count, but it'll just be a game in the regular season in a midweek. I don't see it happening. I just think from a monetary standpoint, and this is the explanation years ago, and I think it probably still is true today, probably not going to happen because financially, you're not going to see Alabama State play Texas Southern in Montgomery or Houston. It's not going to happen. That probably won't fly. So I think from a money perspective, probably not going to happen. And to answer the question, do I see it happening anytime soon? Probably not. I don't see any energy for that, even though I would like to see it. Brian, you would like to see it. I think other people would like to see it. The only way you're going to see it in big time is in a big time venue like the softball tournament or even the baseball tournament. That's the only time you're going to see it. I don't see any oxygen for Jackson State to play Prairie View or vice versa in Jackson. It's just not going to happen financially. I think the ADs will scream about that one.
We're missing out. There's got to be.
Here's my thing. Florida, the Florida schools, the two Florida schools, and the two Texas schools, it's tough.
Yeah.
But those schools in the middle, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, because of the travel is not that big between them, they could cross over a lot more than they do. And they just, right now, they just choose not to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're talking about Montgomery to Baton Rouge, but I do think that's probably, a stretch. Again, I think finances is the number one, the number two, the number three thing. And until that gets worked out, I just don't see any oxygen for that. Just my opinion, just polling some of the ADs about it, even the commissioner.
Give us a check. We come play Southern Miss, and then during the early portion of the season, then we come back and we catch another team on the other side doing one of those swings when we out there getting all those checks anyway. Be smart about your money. While you out there getting all those checks, swing around, get a SWAC team on that same trip before you come back home. Just my 2 cents.
But you know what's going to be said about that, AD Drew?
They out of school for too
all
long.
this class because you're talking about missing a whole week's worth of class, and so the argument of
spring break.
Well, yeah, probably so, but it's not enough. You can get a sampling of it, and we do get a sampling of those matchups in baseball with the Cactus Jack in Houston, the Andre Dawson Classic in Florida, the HBCU Classic that Simone talked about in Atlanta. So you get some of that during that time. But as far as games counting and making it stick, again, I just don't see that type of stuff happening. Just knowing the ADs and just feeling the temperature of the room, I don't see that one taking place.
All right. That's a shame. But anyway, yes, I'm a prisoner of the moment. The East dominance. We'll see. We'll see if being in the moment lasts. I think it will come this upcoming next weekend in Atlanta. But who knows? It's not the first time I've been wrong. Drew, do you have everything together with the softball stuff and can explain everything to everybody now?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead and
We'll
explain it.
We'll start in the SWAC. LSU is the number 9 seed in the tournament. They are the host team. They have Jackson State as their first round opponent. And then Southern Illinois and Cal are on the other half of that particular bracket. Looking over at the
LSU, hold on, let me ask. LSU must have won the SEC tournament.
They're 40-15.
Okay. They weren't one of those top 8 RPI teams that I mentioned earlier, I don't think. But
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, they were.
They were?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I had predicted LSU was where Jackson State was going to land.
All right,
once
go
he
ahead.
gave you those teams.
Good point. Yep.
And then for Morgan State, Duke is the number 10 seed. They are 47-6, going up against Morgan State, who comes in at 35-18. And on the other half is South Carolina, who's 34-22, against Utah, who is 34-20.
And the host is who?
Duke.
Oh, Duke is the host. Okay.
Wow. Yes. So that's different. The RPI, remember the RPI I read had Duke rated as the number 3 RPI team, but you said they were a 10 seed.
They were a 10 seed.
Wow. Okay. So that means it sounds like then, and you said LSU is a 9 seed. That means there's a region somewhere that's got 2 top 8 RPI rated teams in it.
They're broken up into 16 pods. So
16
times 4.
Okay,
yes.
okay, I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
16 times 4.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense then. Okay, there we go.
Well,
all right.
I will say this about that matchup with LSU. First of all, I think it's a good call by the softball committee to put those 2 teams together because it's a short trip down the road for Jackson State where the fans can kind of get there. I've talked with a number of fans at the tournament. They said if it's LSU, they're going to be there. I mean, I was thinking Tennessee, I was thinking Arkansas, I was thinking some other stuff that was pretty far away, but the committee likes to keep our teams pretty close. And so I think it makes sense for Jackson State to play in that region because it's so close. So hopefully a lot of Tiger fans will turn out for that one. It's going to be tough, though, playing softball at a whole nother level. You know, Prairie View, as good as they were, they played probably one of the best softball teams ever to play softball. That's Oklahoma. And so when Prairie View did that last year, it was tough. Jackson's going to be in that same boat. But, again, Jackson's got to hit. And they got to get decent pitching, and they can't afford to make mistakes in the field because that's going to open Pandora's box there for LSU.
All right. And let me read this right quick. Regionals at 16 sites are double elimination as scheduled for May 16th through 19th. The 16 winners advance to the Super Regionals and play a 2-team best-of-3 series either May 23rd through 25th or May 24th through 26th. The eight winners earn spots to the 2024 Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City. The WCWS begins May 30th in a double elimination format. The final 2 teams play a best-of-3 series for the national championship beginning June 5th.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go, Jackson State fans, and get ready to head on down to Baton Rouge.
Not like they haven't made that trip before. They can make that trip blind.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
They just got to go about another 5 miles.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Let's quickly transition to baseball here, Charles, before we wrap up with you. We're coming up on the final weekend, next weekend of the regular season, and then we head into Atlanta for another tournament, another SWAC baseball tournament. Who are some of the, obviously it's a tight race right now in the East. I don't know all the results over on the West side. But what are some of your thoughts in the team? Who are the teams or the team that you are most interested in having a shot at winning the SWAC baseball tournament?
Oh, well, first of all, for me, I always go with the defending champs until they get knocked off, and you know who that is. That's Coach Shoup in Florida A&M. They're 20-7, Bethune-Cookman right behind them. So you got to think that Florida A&M is going to be ready to go. For some reason, guys, I'm just looking at Jackson State right now. And the reason why I'm saying that is because in years past, we talked about Jackson State being kind of the top dogs in the East, and then they just can't seem to get to the finish line. But this year, they haven't been talked about quite as much. And so I think that's, for Omar Johnson, he's not used to that, but I think it could be a good thing because you can sneak up on somebody. Southern University has been inconsistent. They beat LSU, and then they struggle to beat UAPB. I think UAPB is playing a lot better here down the stretch, even though they're not going to make the tournament. There's still some seedings to be determined. And, that's going to be interesting to see how coaches are going to handle this. Are you interested in that 9 a.m., 3 p.m. bracket? The SWAC softball committee did something this year. They started games at 10:30 as compared to 9 a.m. in years past. And I was wondering about that. And the coaches wanted more recovery time. So that's why they pushed the games up to 10:30 as compared to 9 a.m., 9, 12, 3, and 6, like we've had it forever. But I think there's a lot at stake in terms of winning the division. You want that team. Our 8 teams are set. But I think if you're the 1 seed, you want to hang on to that. But I think the other thing is you want to avoid that 9 a.m. bracket if you can. And so if you can do that and play a 12-6 bracket, I think it's important. So I think that's where coaches are probably looking at, in my opinion. But you don't want to get anyone hurt. I just there's so many games I think need to be made up to that I think that you just wonder how much is going to be accomplished this weekend with softball. With the baseball tournament starting next week. Alcorn plays at Texas Southern Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm sure it's going to be other Thursday, Friday, Saturday games. Get that done so you can get to Atlanta. So I'm anxious to see how many of those series are going to take place because you don't have much time to turn it around as you get ready to play in Atlanta on Wednesday.
Yeah. Now, I have seen conference, Charles, that has a similar format with basically the 2 14 double elimination brackets, which is what the SWAC really does, and have a single winner coming out where there's a morning pod and an afternoon pod. So instead of playing at 9 and 3, they would play at 9 and 12, but those 4 teams would stay at 9 and 12 o'clock the entire tournament until the championship, and the other group would stay in theory, the 3 and the 6 o'clock. So your recovery time, is similar. You're not talking like going from the 3 o'clock game to the 9 o'clock game because you lost.
Yeah,
you're going to be in that morning. Your pod is the morning time slot. The other pod is the afternoon time slot. So yeah. I've seen that, that might be something that the SWAC may want to take into consideration, given what you're saying about somebody's going to have to go from that 3 o'clock and play at 9 o'clock in the morning the next morning. And on the flip side, somebody's going to get that extra rest, having played at 9 o'clock in the morning on the first day, and then play at 3 o'clock. So they're going to get almost a day and a half of rest versus a team that's only going to get a half day of rest.
I'm not gonna lie, that 9 a.m. start time is brutal for yours truly. Having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and having to get ready. And somebody was asking me, what's the key to getting through all these games and doing all the games? Years ago, someone said, man, this is what you need to do. Get up in the morning, get you a good big breakfast, pancakes, whatever. Just load up in the morning. And I said, okay, that sounds good until it's not good. It's the worst thing that can happen, And so I'm eating breakfast at 6:30. I'm getting a Grand Slam breakfast from Denny's. 3 pancakes, 3 pieces of bacon.
10:30, you ready to go to sleep.
And so I'm full, right? So I'm good to go. But then you start doing these games at 9, and by that second game, it is all over. and I am struggling to get through
gone.
that second game. There's about an hour and a half window in which you're just in a fog because you're full, you're ready to go to sleep, but then once you get through that, you're okay. So I realize that that's probably not a good idea. So what I do now is I eat very light. I'll eat maybe a bagel, maybe a bowl of cereal, a muffin. And the conference does a really good job in feeding you, by the way. They have a spread every day. I mean, they got barbecue.
So you snack throughout.
I snack through. Yeah, they've got bananas. They've got they have beef jerky, the little small beef jerky. They had chips, all the stuff you can drink, the Gatorade, the water. That's what I ate throughout the whole to get me through. Now at night, when you're done, you're hungry. I'll go to Buffalo Wild Wings and load up and then go to sleep. So you got to get rest, number one. And number two, you got to eat light early. If you load up early, you're done. And it's just, that's one of the things to get through these games. So when you're as a player and as a coach, and I've heard coaches say, I'm getting my team up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. You want to get to the ballpark at 2 hours before the game so you can take your
practice,
your infield and all that. That's tough. That's brutal to play in that bracket, especially in baseball where you might be doing it 3 days in a row. Yes, you're going to be done early. And so you can gauge the games and all of that and kind of go to the ballpark and watch, but you got to get your rest and get up early to do that 3 days in a row. That's tough for everybody involved.
Hey, Charles, speaking of multiple days in a row and doing all this game, how do you keep your voice going for, 14 hours a day without your voice crackling or getting dry or wind up being hoarse after the third or fourth day of the tournament? I think that's a legitimate question.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm a radio guy by trade, but when you're doing the video stuff, you let the pictures do the talking. So you don't have to do nearly as much. And especially down the stretch in these close games like in softball, I try to talk as less as possible, kind of set the stage and let you see it, because me talking over it doesn't do any good. I mean, yes, you got to call it, but you do a lot of less stuff on television than you do in radio because you let the pictures do the talking. So that's how I get through it the last few years. Just talk less, rely more on your colored folks, Simone and Coach Cador and whoever works with me. We had our former softball coach, Joseph Rankin, do some games early on. I thought he did a really good job. He was interested in it last year, couldn't quite get him in, but I think he's going to do more. He's a high school coach who's playing for a state championship, by the way. So he was juggling that, working with us, getting him in, and I think he was comfortable. I think he did a really good job. And just his knowledge of softball, I think, is key. So we're going to have Marquise Grissom work with us for the SWAC baseball tournament, I was told. So
okay.
I'm just going to let him do his thing. I'm going to do my thing, and we're going to talk some good SWAC baseball, a lot of good storylines. But to keep my voice what it is, you got to drink plenty of water. I struggle to do that, but I got plenty of Gatorade. And just when you're not doing games, just don't talk so much, and just let the pictures. Yeah, I mean, because your voice is tired at night, after doing it for on average 12 hours straight. Because by the time you start and when the time it's over with, it's about 9:30. So it's about 11 hours. And so you just got to talk less, plenty of fluids, get plenty of rest, and don't eat a heavy breakfast in the morning. Just do it light and eat heavy as you get through the tournament. But that's how I do it. I learned the hard way. Don't eat heavy early because it will be a struggle once you get midway part of of that day.
Will Simone be there? I'm sorry, she's in Atlanta. Did you say will Simone be there?
Yes, Simone will be there, and so she'll be doing some of the games. I think the conference is pleased with her work. So I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward hopefully to talk to the commissioner again. There's some other storylines out there too, Brian. As far as I interviewed the commissioner.
Yeah, you were stirring the pot. You were stirring the pot, Charles.
I wasn't trying to. I was trying to stir, and even the commissioner said it. The commissioner said I try to stir the pot, but if you stir the pot gently, you can still get a lot more accomplished. And so that's what I was trying to do, because a lot of people are saying a lot of stuff, and I wanted the commissioner to have the platform. Why the championships are where they are, and are we going to Atlanta for basketball? He did admit that. Looks like right now Atlanta's a leader in the clubhouse in terms of
maybe he'll make an announcement while y'all in Atlanta.
Maybe he said it's forthcoming. He said something is forthcoming. He didn't say what, but he didn't rule out Birmingham either. I'm going to ask him about the baseball tournament being in Atlanta. Is that going to be a permanent fixture? We'll see there. This will be year 2 of that. So I'm just looking forward to talking with him. And he's had to go more of the politician route, because with this NIL and all this legislation with these athletes becoming employees, now Washington's got involved. He even talked about it, going to Capitol Hill and talking to Cory Booker and all that. I was really shocked when he told me that. So now this whole stuff is politicized, and so now he's got to get involved in that. So it's never a dull moment.
See if you can do this, and I would love see if you can get Dr. Charles McClellan to do I'm going like a maybe an off the record media, like hey, let's have a sit down and let's just talk, because we all have so many questions. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge and insight that he has, and even if it's off the record, right? But I'd love to be able to hear, and I don't know, is that possible with a room full of media people? But anyway,
off the record won't stay off for long. Some of us have integrity, some of us don't.
Well, look, okay, he knows who he can. I'm sure we can figure out who we can and can't bring in. But I would love to be a small group of people that he has, and just like be able to ask some questions to just kind of understand the conference a little more, so that when the crowd who doesn't know S gets to talking loud, that people who understand the business and the administration of athletics can be better informed to shoot back. If I'm, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's what I would love to be able to do and have.
Well, I will. I'm just going to take a wild guess on this one, Mike. And look, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference is more guarded with his interviews now and his access now than the past. It is a lot
People
more
covering.
It's a lot more people covering, and I know people want to get to him, which is fine. But I think that there's a lot more guarded access to him now. He does I think he did HBCU Sports did some Q&A with him, maybe via email, and that was posted on HBCU Sports. That's the first time I've seen him do anything like that, talk about the commissioner, in a while, because I do know that they're a little more protective of him doing interviews. Now, I don't think he minds doing it, but I just think it used to be when Dewar Sharp was the commissioner, it was wide open. I mean, everybody thought I had a key to Dewar Sharp's house, because every time I was at a championship, he was there, and hey, I could talk to him for an hour and a half. And everybody thought I had his number and all that. No, it's just that I just happen to be there when he's there, and we just have a conversation. But that has changed. It's not quite that easy. The best venue to get the commissioner is going to probably be at SWAC Football Media Day, because he does have a session in which he does talk to the media. Now, how long that's going to be, I don't know. But I think that
I've never seen that. I've never been a part of that.
There is
that's because we're usually setting up on the other side. For our podcast, he does it. We've been too busy still trying to do our final checks before that.
This year, I'm gonna be over there for that, because I keep missing that. I keep missing that. Damn.
Oh, we get those early interviews before the coaches go into the main session.
Now, again, I'm not sure of this, because Andrew Roberts does a good job in coordinating his interviews. But I think if you want the stuff that you just talked about, to get a wide-ranging, a swath of different issues, because I try to get with the commissioner and try to go over a whole bunch of different stuff in a short period of time, because I know it's hard to get them, it's hard to keep them. So I want to go over a lot of different bullet points. I mean, we could have talked the whole game, because there's a whole bunch of more stuff I wanted to talk about with him, but I know that I only have a limited time with him.
He was strategic about when he came to you, Charles. I noticed that. He came to you like around the 5th inning, 4th inning.
I wanted to do it early in the tournament, but I was told that it would be better to do it on championship Friday, and so I wanted to do it early and kind of let it marinate for a few days for folks to kind of deal with, because I do want to get the stuff out there.
Yes.
But I think that they always told the championship game would be better for him, And so, I mean, hey, I'm going to do what I'm told to do on that, as long as we can get and I can ask the commissioner pretty much anything, because I've known him for a long time, the AD at TSU and Prairie View. Relationships matter. And I think you, Brian, you, AD, you know folks at these schools, Brian, you know folks at Florida A&M. And so relationships matter. When you have positive relationships with people, then you can ask them just about anything. So I can ask the commissioner.
Say that part again. Positive relationships.
When you have positive relationships with people, you can ask them just about anything. And all the coaches we've had at Alcorn, I've had positive relationships with them, and I can ask whether it was Fred McNair, Landon Bussey, Nate Kilbert. I mean, it's just like having a conversation on the patio. And it's just because if you know these people and you're around them, you kind of feel for what pushes their buttons and what gets them talking. And so I think that's the thing that podcasters and people in this business, I think that's a struggle to get people to realize. If you got positive relationships with people, you can get pretty much whatever you need out of them. And so I think that's the important thing. And when you don't, there are people who know who to talk to and who not to talk to. It's just we can talk about that too. And so you're not going to get what you want out of them because they're backing up when you're talking to them for whatever reason.
Charles, it's not a struggle because people consciously know what they are doing. They're trying to get likes. They're trying to get clicks. Yep. They are trying to get the headlines.
Yeah.
And they will kill a source or kill a relationship for clicks on their article or clicks on their podcast.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I credit Black College Sports Network. You're another one who does it good. Sometimes we're privy to information that we just cannot put out. We have to wait. We may know about it a week in advance, a day in advance, but we're gonna wait until whoever puts it out, and then we're already prepared with our response because we were privy to it. But that's not our job to put those out. And because we get that information and we know when to sit on information, that's why we can have those type of interviews and that type of relationship that you're talking about there, Charles. Or sometimes people give us information with the intent for us to leak it. Off the record. Now you can repeat this, but don't repeat that you got this from me. So and so and so and so and so and so, and we've been privy to that information.
Right.
And we figure out how to put that out there with class. So for everybody is not. I'm not a trained journalist like you are, Charles, but I'm trained in common sense, and I know because I'm a businessman. Relationships matter. I worked in politics for many years. Yeah. Relationships matter. I coached for many years. Relationships matter.
There are journalists, trained journalists that will protect their sources so tightly to where they'll go to jail over it. It does happen. It has happened. People aren't just going to leak source. I mean, you watch CNN, you watch MSNBC. Those folks that are plugged into the politics, there are people that are plugged. There's only, and I'm going to say this, I've said this on Carlos's show, there's only a handful of folks in this conference that are really, 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 really plugged into what's going on at these schools in the SWAC. There's only a handful. I can probably count 15 to 20. I was talking to somebody about it at the basketball tournament. How many do you think really are plugged in? Probably 15 to 20, maybe. Now, in the SWAC office, how many people are really plugged into what's going on in Birmingham? At one point in time, I would say about 10. But right now, I would probably say 5, because the SWAC has increased their protocols in terms of how they get information out. Some people know what's going on in Birmingham. A lot of people don't. And so the conference has tightened that up because they understand the social media clicks and the social media likes. And the commissioner talked about it too. I mean, he dibbles and dabbles on social media a little bit, but he has people that are kind of watching that for him. And so he knows what's going on based on the stuff he's getting. And so I talk about stuff because I'm on social media. I read stuff and I put stuff in front of him to kind of jiggle him to see if it's true, if it's not. And he even says, we need to do a better job of vetting some of this stuff. And so when it comes from him, when it comes from the source, he's the commissioner, he knows. And I think that's some people may not be Dr. McClellan fans, but the one thing about it, he says it in a way in which you kind of gravitate and listen to. And, I think that's a good thing. If you got a relationship with him, a good relationship, you'll be able to get stuff out of him, just like anybody else. But I think, Bryan, to answer your question, again, I think SWAC Football Media Day, and the commissioners had all these championships, by the way, basketball tournament, softball, baseball. I think if you work it out in advance, I think he can create time to bounce around and talk to people and give you the information that you're looking for. But unfortunately, you don't have a lot of that. The football championship games, a lot of coverage. SWAC basketball terms, a lot of coverage. But then the other championships, baseball, softball, not quite as much. So therefore, he's got a lot of free time on his hands. And I think if it's coordinated right, he'll sit down and talk to you, because he does want to get the positive message out about the SWAC. He also wants to get the realistic message out about the SWAC. And I think coming from him, he's the guy, and he's over the NCAA basketball committee. So I think that's a lot of credibility that for him to have that job, and we talked about that, what he has to deal with there, and even talked about even in basketball, what is it going to take for the SWAC to get a higher seed than just a 16 or playing. We talked about that, and so that
for several years now.
That's in the interview. He threw a nugget out there I didn't know. We gotta, instead of playing Duke in North Carolina game 1 or 2, maybe wait till December and do it and get it done at that time. So that's something I didn't even know. So I think he knows. I think he wants to see this, because I would like to see the SWAC representative every year be a 12 seed going against a 5 seed. If that happens, if you got a Grambling, if you got a Southern, and he even admitted Southern University had the best chance, Southern men's basketball had the best chance to get out of that play-in, based on the net rankings and all of that. And I read that on social media. I didn't believe it, but the commissioner kind of confirmed it. And so that's something that we just got to follow. But again, it's only so much the commissioner's office can do. These ADs have the power to tell their coach, hey, you got to bring in $800,000. Go with it. Go for it. Get Duke, get Kentucky, get Arkansas, get Gonzaga. And therefore, you wind up losing out on that. And that's a part of the reason why we're in the play-in every year, which is good, because the coaches want it. The coaches, Landon Busty says, I'll take the play-in. Great. Wonderful. Grambling beat Montana State. But then who was waiting for him on the other side? On the top 4 teams in the country.
A 40-point loss.
Yeah. So I want to see us get a 12 seed, and hopefully, I think if we're 12 or 11, which is a lot of work throughout the league, 1 through 12, we all got to roll in the same direction on that when it comes to scheduling. Probably not going to happen. Me and Carlos talk about it all the time. Carlos is tired of talking about it. And, I still want to carry the flag for it, because I think it still needs to be carried. But, until that happens, we're going to continue to be a 16 seed. We're going to win the play-in game most of the time. Texas Southern's done it. Grambling's done it. UAPB's done it. But then when you're staring at Purdue, when you're staring at North Carolina, one of those top 4 teams in the country, the top 4 teams are the number 1 seed in those respective regions. I don't necessarily want to see that, but we got to work in November and December to avoid that. That's just a whole nother conversation that he talked about, as well as other stuff. So it's just a lot more to talk about. It keeps us busy, it keeps us happy, keeps us engaged. And that's something that I think fans like.
Let me set just in case people know, again, coming up the final weekend of the SWAC baseball season, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The tournament in Atlanta begins next Wednesday.
A week Wednesday.
A week from Wednesday. So right now, in the East Division, now I was just checking the SWAC website. The Jackson State Bethune game hasn't gone final, and I saw that it was postponed. So game 3 has been postponed. So I don't know our JSU people, or I know if Tyron is still, if Waters is still in there, let us know what's going on with that Bethune-Jackson State game. But right now, FAMU's in first with a 1.5 lead over Bethune-Cookman, who's in second. Alabama State is in third. Jackson State is a 1.5 behind Alabama State. That's pretty much the top 4. I think Alabama A&M and Valley are officially out.
Right. Yeah.
In the West, Texas Southern has a half-game lead over Grambling State.
Yep.
So by my account, somebody's missing a game, and I think that is Grambling State, who is missing a game. I don't know who it's against, although when you go to who's in third, Prairie View is in third with 13-8. That would be, quick math, that's 22 games.
30.
That's 21 games. So Prairie View is missing a whole series against somebody. And Southern is 14-11 in fourth place.
What's going to be interesting, what I was told the other day, is that the conference, they used to have a 100% rule way back in the day. You got to play 100% of your division games, or you can't go to the tournament. I believe it's 80%. And so with all this weather that we've had in Texas, and I think even in Mississippi that we're going to get tomorrow, I think right now is if you get your 80% in, then you're fine, and you may not have to. You may not even care about where the standings lie. You got to get these games in. So you see this disparity. Like Alcorn's got 27 games.
Right.
They've got 3 games left against Prairie View. So they're right on par. But then look at with 1 week left. Look at these games.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of teams missing some of these games. So it may be a scramble. I don't know how that would work, how they would get the conference office to kind of rectify that. Yeah. But those in Jackson canceled the 4th inning because of the weather. I mean, I'm sure the weather in Jackson is we got some rough weather coming over the next couple of days. So any work to try to get some midweek work done is probably going to be out of the question. Whatever midweek games we play Lamar in Beaumont on Tuesday. Don't know about that one. I mean, I'll be down there, but we're not going to make the tournament. We're just trying to get these games in. But I think there's a lot of work to be done this week in terms of trying to get some of these games in, the 80%.
So now, it'll be basically
you said Prairie View. Yeah, you said Prairie View had 21 games.
Yeah, Prairie View has 21 games, conference games, and somebody G Boom had said Prairie View and Texas Southern are missing 3 games.
Okay, so if Prairie View has 21, that means they have to get all 3 games in this week to make the 80% rule, because 80% is 24.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So Prairie View would have 24. Grambling's needs to get 2 in. Texas Southern needs to get 1 in. Southern's in good shape. So, I know Mother Nature hasn't been kind this last month of the season down here in the Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi area, but there's going to have to be some baseball to be played in order to meet that quota. And we'll see how that works out. I'm sure there's some conversations with the baseball folks at the SWAC office about that.
So everybody on the east side is correct. Right. Everybody on the east side is good as far as 24.
No, they're not good because the Bethune and Jackson State are a half a
no, I'm talking about as far as the 24 games, getting their 24 in.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That's what I mean. We don't have to worry about them. If something happens, they're good. If they get a watch this weekend for whatever reason.
Well, the question now becomes, if you look at Bethune, number 2 seed, are they interested in, because they realistically have a shot to be the number 1 seed in the East. Alabama State could move up. Jackson could move up. So right now, with a week left, if you talk with Coach Vasquez at Alabama State, you talk with Omar at Jackson State, you talk with Coach Hernandez at Bethune, are they interested in where they're seated? They're in the tournament. But 2, 3, 4, are they interested in that? With 1 week left, and you got to get ready for Atlanta with 10 days left until the tournament.
FAMU plays Valley over the weekend, Charles. So I mean that pretty much. I mean, unless Valley recruited some new players, they're 3-25. That should be a sweep by FAMU, and that will put FAMU in first place in the East.
I'm not going to say that, Brian, because Florida, but I will. But I am going to go on the record to say that Valley down the stretch here has played a little bit. They got a first-year young coach. I think they beat A&M a time or two this last weekend. So I think Valley's not going to be an easy out now. I mean, yes, on paper, yes. But you don't play it on paper. Valley, what do they have to lose? Absolutely nothing. And so they may try to send a message to try to at least, knock Florida. And look, for Coach Shute,
anything's possible.
Does Coach Shute play it out? Does he rest people this weekend?
Oh God, I hope not.
Good point.
You've got to win the East. You need to be the one.
But Brian, here's the thing: with so much parity in the SWAC, does it really matter where you are seated at? Because you're going to have to face somebody. If you don't face them day one, you're going to wind up facing them day two.
Man,
this is not the old SWAC. This is not the old SWAC where the 1-4 matchup you can start your number 2 starter or your number 3 starter. This is not the old SWAC. You got to come with your ace on day one now.
So you got Florida A&M and Southern University perhaps in that first round matchup.
The 1-4.
The 1-4. That one right. And Southern University has been the epitome of a yo-yo team. You beat LSU, you lose the UAPB at home, you go to Grambling and get it done, you stumble against Texas. I mean, you don't know. Southern University, Brian, you asked the question, what team that you got to take a look at? I mean, all of them, obviously, but Southern University, they've just been all over the map. And all you got to do is put it together for 4 days. That's all you got to do. 4 days in Atlanta. And if you can do that, regardless of the yo-yo season you've had, you're going to be hoisting that tournament trophy in Atlanta and going to the regionals.
All right. Well, anything's possible. Anything is possible. All right. Okay. So, Charles, hey, we appreciate your time this evening. Again, props to you, the broadcast crew, Simone, everybody who was a part of the broadcast in Gulfport. You did an outstanding job, and we look forward to watching and following along in Atlanta next weekend. I look forward to getting to Atlanta probably on Friday morning. Similar schedules last year, and I look forward to a great weekend. You see my jersey. I'll be wearing my baseball jersey in Atlanta, and ready to run it back with a repeat title.
It's been a good year, Brian, for Florida A&M athletics. Look at what football did. Got new coaches there. Coach Shoup with baseball, softball making a good run. Florida A&M's had a pretty good sports season. I think things on the up and up.
It'd be better if we stopped the Jackson State and Alabama State in championship games. It'd be a whole lot better if we've lost 4 titles, 2 to Jackson State, 2 to Alabama State. I'm telling you that those 2 are becoming like,
yeah.
We'd have a super season. I mean, we'd actually be probably first place in that SWAC Commissioners Cup. It had not been for Jackson State and Alabama State stinging us, but whatever. Yeah. It happens. Nature of sports.
Yeah. I'm just impressed with just looking at Florida. I mean, Florida A&M softball, Coach Shoup with baseball, of course, football, trying to defend the football championship. I mean, I'm not just riding the coattails, but Florida A&M is just doing it right now. Florida A&M is doing it, and you got to call it like it is. And so that's just the way I look at it. I'm just looking forward to seeing what Coach Shoup and the Rattlers bring there. They're now the hunted. So we hear now, Israel. See.
We here now, Israel. Better get used to us. We're gonna be in every sport, every title race. We gonna be there, chomping at the bit, striking at y'all ankles. So just be ready. We here, baby. We here.
Yeah. Should be fun.
I love it. I love being in the SWAC. So fun. It really is. It really is. It's fun. I'm glad. Best move FAMU has made as an athletic program in the past 20 years. So I love it. I love it. Love all of it. Love all of it. Even the pettiness. I love the pettiness. And the back and forth.
Plenty of that.
First class.
Plenty of that. But you love it though.
Exactly. I do. All right, Charles. Get some rest. Rest up the voice and the pipes, and be ready to roll in Atlanta, man. We look forward to seeing you there. All right.
Appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Edmond. Love good stuff. Good stuff. Look forward to and Simone will be there. So my new favorite sideline reporter, Simone Stanley, there. So can't wait to see Simone. There we go. All right. I'll leave it at that.
Man, you better get up the break, man, before I say something.
Before I get in trouble. That's right.
Push the button, Brian. Hurry up and push the button.
All right, I'm gonna hit the button. Quick break, and then we'll come back in a moment. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com. Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. Once again, appreciate Charles Edmond for hanging out with us a little overtime. Great conversation, though. All things SWAC softball, SWAC baseball, just SWAC. He is SWAC, Charles Edmond. Make sure to follow him at Tallman Radio on X. And so we always love talking to him. I always love talking to him. Let's see.
You got some NAIA baseball we still need to throw out there.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, softball and baseball. And then, we got that tournament in Montgomery we need to talk about.
Okay. So speaking of that tournament in Montgomery, Bluefield State manages to beat out Talladega to win. It's the second time in the 4 years of the event that Bluefield State has won. They had a 5-1 victory over Talladega. I'm reading the let's see. You pointed out that Talladega It's the first loss in what kind of winning streak was Talladega on?
17 in a row.
Wow. 17 in a row. Now, Talladega is actually going to the NAIA National Tournament, which I think is a first for any team that's played in that tournament over the 4 years. That anybody has gone or actually extended their season, right?
Beyond the tournament, yes, where the tournament was not the end of their season. So congratulations to Talladega. And Brian, Talladega does not come in as the bottom seed in their pod that they're going to in, I believe, in Hattiesburg. They're playing at William Carey. I should have it pulled up right here. Let's see if we've got updated times on the tournament. Let's see. But that's a softball. Give me just a second. But yeah, getting back to that, yeah, Talladega is the first team that has participated in the tournament that will go on to play in another postseason tournament, be it the NC2A Division II tournament or the NAIA tournament. And Talladega is the number 4 seed in their tournament. They've made the NAIA tournament 5 times, with the last tournament appearance being in 2019. They get in by way of the automatic qualifier from the GCAC. The last time we will say anybody gets in as the automatic qualifier from the GCAC.
Because the conference is changing names.
Yes, because the conference is changing
just
names.
In case anybody huh?
Yeah, just in case anybody wanted to know. And they are in the Shreveport. I'm sorry, they're in the Shreveport bracket. Number 1 in that one is LSU Shreveport. Number 2 is Concordia, Nebraska. Number 3 is Kansas Wesleyan. Number 4 is Talladega, and number 5 is Blue Mountain. And on tomorrow, Talladega will take on Blue Mountain. That game will begin at 11 a.m. There's supposed to be a live video link. It is not active on the NAIA website, but that's 11 a.m. Central Time, so that'll be 12 o'clock Eastern. Should they win that game, they would turn around and play again at 6 o'clock on Monday against LSU Shreveport, which is 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. Should they lose their game, they will play at 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on Tuesday against the loser of the Concordia, Nebraska, Kansas Wesleyan game. So that's the bracket.
And the NAIA baseball level, it's a 48 team field.
Yes, it's 48. They break it up into 10 regionals. Each pod has either 4 or 5 teams in it, and that's based on geography.
Right, and again,
baseball and softball have a 48 team format.
Right, and I heard, and I know you guys, you and Jamie Walker had on Stillman's head coach. Stillman is representing as the only HBCU. Actually, you got an at-large bid in the NAIA softball tournament.
Correct. Stillman received an at-large bid, and to our knowledge, we still have not found another HBCU that has received an at-large bid to the NAIA tournament. Every time we've had a HBCU in the tournament, it has been as an automatic qualifier. Stillman making their first appearance in the NAIA softball tournament come in with a 35-13 record. And now everybody, I need you to keep this in mind. Up until 2000, and they started making the transition in 2004, Stillman was a Division III program. So they made the transition from Division III to Division II, joining the SIAC. And then in, I believe it was 2015, they made the decision for financial purposes to drop down to the NAIA level. So you're talking in less than 10 years, they make their first appearance in the NAIA tournament. So they will be going into the Hattiesburg pod. That's also starts tomorrow, May 13th through 16th at William Carey University. Stillman will play at 1 o'clock. They're the number 5 seed. The other teams in this pod, Jessup out of California is the 1. William Carey out of Mississippi is the 2. Reinhardt is the number 3. Indiana Southeast is the 4. And Stillman is the 5. Stillman will play at 1 o'clock against Indiana Southeast. Once again, the live video link is not up and active as of this point. And then game 2, that will be on Monday. Game 2 will be on Tuesday. If they win, they will play at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. Should Stillman lose, they will play at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. And these are central times that I'm giving you. So 2 and 5 for us on the East Coast. Let me see. Should they lose, they will play the loser of the William Carey versus Reinhardt out of Georgia game. That will be if they play at 5 o'clock. And should they win, they will play number 1 Jessup at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock Central on May 14th. And you can go to naia.org and click on either baseball or softball to further find out more about these teams. But Bluefield State, let's talk about them, Brian.
What's there to talk about?
They won the tournament. First time that you have had a person win, well, first 2-time champion in the 4-year history of that tournament. Okay. And let's think about this from the point of Bluefield State. Bluefield State, who does not play in the conference because they are in the CIAA now. CIAA does not sponsor baseball. Bluefield State was previously an independent anyway, so they've always been independent in baseball. So for a team like Bluefield State, that was their postseason tournament. They have no SIAC tournament. They have no SWAC-like tournament to go to. So for them, I think, and I've talked with Drew Bailey in the past on this, them winning that particular event is probably more important to them than any other participant of that event who may feel that that is a consolation event because they did not win their conference tournament. And also, shout out to Talladega. Talladega, the first team that has actually won their conference championship and participated in that tournament following a conference championship during that 10 to 14 day hiatus. Now, what does that do for a Talladega team? Did that keep that momentum going that they needed? Because they would have had essentially a 2-week layoff had they not participated in that event. Or did it take something out of them? Does the fact that they ended the tournament with a loss, how is that going to affect them? Is that going to have them refocus? Or is that going to be the start of a downward cycle? Well, only time will tell. We'll find out tomorrow and Tuesday, possibly Wednesday. But it's going to be interesting, those different dynamics when it comes to Talladega, based on them winning the GCAC over a week and a half ago and then participating in that event. And Coach Marco Dominguez, if you paid attention, he uses pitching very wisely. No one pitched more than 3 innings in a game to make sure that he had pitching that was available. Where you saw a team like Edward Waters, who could not participate in the Division II tournament this year, tried to become the first team that won a conference championship and won the additional postseason tournament in the same year. They used their pitching basically like it was the SIAC tournament, and had guys who went the distance and pitched 6, 7, 8 innings, trying to be that first person to win the dubious double, as I would like to call it.
Yeah. I think
go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say, I think it's got to help. It's got to help playing, because I think we've talked to coaches before. It's hard to simulate the flow of play. As long as you can stay healthy, I'm sure most coaches would play because you're used to playing. So there is an advantage of coming. I think rest is overrated unless there are some injuries involved. You know.
Yeah. And Blue Jacket, I'm not 100% sure why Albany State did not play. I was there at the tournament, the SIAC tournament. And honestly, when I looked at the
are they getting into the Division II?
No, they won't be in the Division II.
Well, this would be, I bet you anything, they probably, like, this is what, this is the third year in a row that Albany State has gone in as the 1 seed, got knocked out, and the consolation was, hey, let's go to the tournament in Montgomery. And this year they probably were just like, man, bump this.
Screw that.
I mean, yeah, no disrespect, but it's just like, you know, we've been here, done that. You know.
And speaking of Division II tournaments, go ahead, Brian.
That's all. I was just saying. I mean, that's just me. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't have any factual information to confirm that, but that's just probably the mindset. Might be the mindset.
I'm just going to say this. I was talking to somebody from Albany State Athletics, and I asked the question, and they said, why?
Yeah, exactly.
It was SIAC, it was NCAA or bust for them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because they've been there, done that. They've done it the last 2 years where you want to keep the season going, but after you've done it twice, and they didn't win that tournament. That's another thing. They lost to SIAC. Then you go to the tournament in Montgomery and you lose that. You're like, oh, heck, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Why are we doing this?
You know, it's like at some point.
And that was a heartbreaker last year.
Exactly, right? So, you know, I'm sure there's some scars for that, and so they'll recalibrate and they'll get it. Eventually, when they do win it, it'll feel sweet. And then when they win it, then they'll probably want to go because, like you said, you don't want to be off a whole week before the NCAA. So you'll probably go after winning the SIC because you want to be juiced up and ready going into the tournament, I think. My thoughts.
Correct.
Only me.
Correct.
All right.
Go just in case people have not seen it. Going to the Division II softball tournament, and I'm trying to pull up the results. Obviously, we know our teams have been eliminated from the Division II softball tournament. Bowie State was eliminated. May 9th, they lost to East Stroudsburg by a score of 11-1. Yikes. Then they dropped down to the elimination bracket and lost to Shippensburg by a score of 9-2. And Kutztown won the region that they were in. So, and just for full disclosure, the SIAC representative, who was Spring Hill, we know they're not an HBCU, but they represent our HBCU conference, so I'm obligated to give them their 15 seconds. They lost to AUM by a score of 6-2 on May 9th, and then they turned around and lost to St. Leo. Looks like they were run ruled by St. Leo by a score of 10-0 on day 2. So those were your HBCUs in the softball tournament. And let's see if I can get the baseball brackets.
While you're asking that, can I flash a question and answer a question real quick?
Yes.
Edwin Moore had asked about the GCAC records and history following them to the HBCU Athletic Conference. I would hope so, Edwin. I mean, just because you're changing the name, I don't think you throw away your history. Now, obviously, everything is new, but you'll probably still lean on the fact that, it's like the history of going from the Big 8 to the Big 12.
And it should be that, because that was they actually cut it off. Big 12 was a separate conference.
Oh, so they never. So when they went from Big 8 to Big 12, it never.
No,
they got rid of the old
Pac-10.
Big 8.
Yeah, but Pac-10 to Pac-12 kept everything from Pac-8, Pac-10 to Pac-12.
Okay, so then that's a great question for Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes. Then, will the GCAC records follow? Because we've seen, now you just pointed out two different options that have happened.
Yes.
Even with the name change. So, okay,
Correct.
That's a good question.
Right.
One other question. One other question that came up.
Let me throw this just quickly.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
10:30 Eastern time tonight, Division II baseball brackets will be released.
Okay. Okay, so that's 10:30 tonight, Division II baseball. G-Boom had asked this earlier during the interview with Charles. He was asking if the baseball bracket will be like the softball bracket, and I'm like, huh? Was it different? Is it? I thought they were the same.
No.
Okay, explain the difference.
Softball is a straight 8-team double elimination bracket.
Okay.
Baseball and the SWAC are 2 4-team double elimination brackets where the 2 bracket winners play on championship Sunday in a winner take all.
Okay.
The 2 independent, there's no crossover. Either you're in bracket A or bracket B.
So
whereas in the softball tournament, everybody's thrown in there together.
So his question, he wonders how, if softball had done a baseball style, let me see, then I don't know. I'd have to go look at the brackets and see. Would
FAMU would have been
a Jackson State FAMU final? I don't know if we would have. Would we have?
Let's see. I'll try to get you the seeds right quick. And who would have played? Let's see. All right, your top 4: FAMU, Jackson State, Bethune, Alabama State on the East, Prairie View, Texas Southern, UAPB. So FAMU plays Arkansas Pine Bluff. You're one in your 4 crossover, and then Jackson State would have played Southern.
And that would have been
bracket 8. That would have been bracket 8.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. No. FAMU, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Bethune, and Texas Southern would have been bracket 8.
That's what I thought. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Bethune-Texas, and then bracket B would have been Prairie View versus Alabama State, which we saw that one, and then Jackson State, Southern.
Right. So you potentially could have had a Prairie View Jackson matchup to get to a championship game.
The first round doesn't change. It's rounds 2 and beyond that would have changed.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And there would not have been a crossover.
All right. So there you go.
And there would have been no if game scheduled for Saturday.
Okay. Here's a great clarification on the Big 12. Edwin said, wait a minute, nope, wrong one. Edwin says the Big 12 was a merger of the Southwest Conference and the Big 8. So that's why those records in history are not moving to the new conference. Okay, I guess so.
Great point. Great clarification. Yeah,
So
there were 4 members of the
Southwestern Conference. Yeah.
Yes. And then the old Big 8.
Right, because half the Southwest Conference went to the SEC, didn't they?
3, I believe 3 of the 4.
Right.
Only person who did not go to a conference was Southern Methodist.
Yeah, because they were probably on that suspension
3.
tip. Or
I think 3 went. Yeah, 3 went to the
SEC,
and then South Carolina, I believe, was the 4th team.
Right.
Balance it out.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Can I jump to a different sport for a second?
Yeah, I think we talked baseball and softball.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick mention before we get ready to close the show. Golf mention from this past week. Florida A&M men's golf won the HBCU National Championship. That was hosted by the PGA, the Division I PGA Works Collegiate Championship. It's the first time that FAMU has won this event since 2000, when current head coach Mike Rice was an actual member of the golf team. And he was the lead medalist for FAMU back in 2000 when they won. And so to kind of go full circle from being the lead golfer and being a participant to actually leading a group of young men to this title was pretty special. Pretty great opportunity for this this FAMU golf team. They were playing on the TPC Sawgrass course in Jacksonville, which many people do regard as the 5th major on the PGA Tour. So we know how, you see golfers, professional guys, go through the challenges of mastering and playing that course. Well, FAMU as a team, let me see what their final score was. If I can pull it up here. I'm bouncing all around here. Doggone screen. Well, anyway, I can't pull up the numbers. My damn browser's bouncing around all over the place. They won it by 29 strokes. I can tell you that. They won it by 29 strokes.
That's a lot of doggone strokes.
It is. They won it by 29 strokes over there, over the whoever was in second place. So pretty dominating performance for FAMU men's golf. So congratulations to the Rattlers. Something we did get a win. We did win a title over the weekend. So there you go. Over to basketball news, Drew. And I heard you guys mention this on Thursday's show with Dr. Kerville, you and Jamie. Angel Jackson made it to the final cuts with the Las Vegas Aces. Unfortunately, she did not make the cut. So, but I I think you guys talked about this. I got to imagine there will be a place for a 6'6" post somewhere as the attrition of the season goes. So hopefully she's able to stay in shape, keep working out. Might even be some overseas opportunities later, but she will get an opportunity. Maybe that was just a bad team. It was a good and bad. A good team to be drafted by, but a bad team in terms of available roster spots.
Well, like I said this week, roster spots for the WNBA are tough to come by.
There's only 12 teams.
There's only 12 teams, 12 players.
Yeah, 144.
And most times there may be one, maybe two roster spots per year that come open per team.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Speaking of the W, did you hear the 2 expansion teams?
No, I have not.
Coming.
No.
So for whatever reason, they're doing the expansion in 2 different years instead of, because right now, like you just mentioned, there's 12 teams. Somehow you're going to have an odd balanced schedule next. Is it next year? Yeah, next year. So in 2025. A team in the Bay Area, Golden State, will be joining the W.
Are they going to play where? Have they announced that?
No, they haven't announced where, but I would imagine, seeing as how it's affiliated with the Golden State franchise, the Warriors franchise, that they will probably play in that arena, or if who knows? I don't know where they'll play.
Yeah, because a lot of times they don't like to play in the NBA arenas anymore to make them more intimate.
Well, I mean, you could play in the lower deck and drop the curtain, and you still have 7,000-8,000, maybe even 10 to 12.
Most arenas can, but some arenas just, you can't do that aesthetically.
Yeah, well, and then so obviously instead of bringing 2 teams in 25, they're bringing in just 1, and then in 2026 they're going across the border into Canada. Toronto will get the team in 2026. Kind of interesting. Surprised that they didn't choose a city that is more supported. And I don't have any. I know you have in Stanford, not far away from the Golden Gate, Golden State.
Yeah, it's in the San Francisco area.
Okay. So you got a strong area. Yeah, you got a strong college base there with I think the demographic of San Francisco helps. The fact that they already are supportive of college basketball through Stanford, a winning program, that helps. The Canada thing is kind of odd. I don't understand going over to Canada when you had places that like the Midwest. I mean, the Midwest has been very supportive. Oklahoma City, Nebraska, Iowa. I mean, I know those don't seem like, but I mean, you're talking places that are supportive of women's sports and women's athletics. And if you look at what those states do for volleyball and college basketball, you don't think they would do well in professional basketball anyway?
Bryan, I've got to ask this question. And I know we've got a lot of Texas-based people on this podcast. Why not Houston? What the hell happened to the Houston franchise? I think they still have won more WNBA titles than any other franchise and have been in existence for over a decade.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Houston Comets. I don't know what happened and why they went away.
I would love to see the Houston Comets come back. Now, I don't know if Houston wants to see them come back, the people in Houston, but that was one franchise that I would love to see come back.
Another franchise I wonder about, what happened to the old Detroit Shock? Are they still around?
Didn't they wind up in they wound up in Tulsa, or did they go from Tulsa to Detroit? I know there was a connection between Tulsa and Detroit. The Tulsa shot.
I don't know. But I remember they won a couple titles, didn't they? Like Swim Cash, or Swim. Was it Swim or Swin? I don't know.
Bill Swin.
And Bill Lambier was the coach.
Bill Lambier was the coach. Yes, Bill Lambier was the coach.
Yeah, they won a couple titles back then. Yeah, it's so here's a trivia question. How many
I would love to see. Wait a minute, New Orleans, Baton Rouge area also. I think would be.
How many of the original franchises are still in existence? There's a trivia
Liberty?
question. Yes.
You got the Liberty.
One. Yeah.
You got the Sparks.
Yeah.
Sky.
Are you sure? Are you sure the Sky?
Weren't the Sky one of the original teams? The Chicago Sky?
I don't know.
I know those three.
Quick Google. All right.
And I think maybe Seattle. That might be about it.
Oh, Seattle's gone. That team is gone. That wasn't an original. All right, so here you go. I got it.
Seattle Storm are gone.
Seattle Storm. They weren't one of the originals.
Oh, they weren't one of the originals.
No. Okay, so you got the New York Liberty. They are the only one of the original 4 Eastern Conference teams still in existence.
Mm-hmm.
The Sparks.
Right.
There's another team from the West that we're forgetting that's also one of the original 4 in the Western Conference.
Ooh.
Think hot desert.
Oh, Mercury.
Yeah, Phoenix Mercury.
Yes.
I don't look. This is crazy. I don't know.
I thought the Chicago Sky were original.
No, unless they were formerly one of the other teams. The Sacramento.
I'm talking about original in their original city, original name. That's what.
Yeah. Nope. The Sacramento Monarchs, are they still around? I don't think they're still around. Okay, the Comets moved to San Antonio and became the Silver Stars. Okay. Interesting. So here are the original 4 on the West: the Sparks, the Mercury, the Sacramento Monarchs, and the Utah Stars. And the original 4 from the East were the Charlotte Sting, the Cleveland Rockers, the Houston Comets, and the New York Liberty. And so, yeah, now then you start going into the whole expansion and things of that nature.
Moving the franchises and stuff like that.
Yeah. Then you start moving into all the other stuff that happened, and it's like, yeah, because I think all right, anyway, we're going down the rabbit hole. I don't want to go down right now, but anyway, interesting. And I'll tie that in to a 7-time WNBA All-Star who will be the next head coach of Tennessee State University. Candice Dupree. She is the new head women's basketball coach at Tennessee State. Tennessee State
coaching.
That would be Parker. That would have been good for Jackson State, but anyway. Tennessee State Director of Athletics Mickey Allen said, hiring Candice Dupree marks a pivotal moment in our pursuit of excellence. Her legendary playing career and success as an NBA assistant coach in player development brings unmatched expertise to our women's basketball program. We're excited to welcome her championship mindset and global influence within the basketball community, setting the stage for unprecedented success here at Tennessee State. She had a stellar career at Temple. She played for Dawn Staley. She was the 6th overall pick of the Chicago Sky in 2006. She played 16 years in the WNBA. She was a champion in 2014 with the Mercury. She's third all-time in field goals, fifth all-time in scoring, seventh in total rebounds. So yeah,
Brian,
yeah.
why doesn't Nashville have a WNBA team?
That was one of the teams that people were talking about as a possible expansion spot. I
With
don't
the
know.
success of Tennessee basketball, why does Nashville not have a WNBA team?
Great question. I don't know. But I think we're going to be able to do a story here pretty soon on former WNBA players coaching at HBCUs. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think we're up to about 4 or 5 now. From Bridget Gordon. Look, this is my unofficial count. Bridget Gordon at FAMU. I think Hampton, the new Hampton women's basketball coach, is a former player in the W. Tennessee State now. Didn't UAB the new UAPB coach? Isn't she a former player from the W?
I'm not sure. But you know, Brian, we have had more than our fair share of WNBA players come through.
We have?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Cynthia Cooper Dyke at Texas Southern.
That's true.
The one that people don't know, Kwesi Timmons Barnes, who was a former coach at Tuskegee, played in the W. So those are two that I know off the top of my head. So
I just gave somebody a story idea out there. Just give me a little credit. Whoever picks up that story idea, give me a little credit when you pick it up, please. Who else? That's it. Yeah, I don't know. I have to do a little history search. We'll have to do some digging here. That might be. We'll see who can get first to the punch to get that story out. One last thing I want to make a mention of, Drew, and then I'm done for tonight. 2 longtime MEAC rivals are going to play in the 40th anniversary of my favorite classic, the classic that I was raised on, the classic that basically raised a lot of folk in the Midwest, the classic that introduced me to the Marching 100. The Circle City Classic. They will play their 40th. It'll be the 40th year of the Circle City Classic. And it's going to be an old showdown between 2 MEAC rivals, North Carolina Central and Norfolk State.
is that a conference game?
I believe it is a conference game. Unless they're playing each other twice.
I have to ask these questions, Brian.
Well, I heard someone say that it was a conference game somewhere else. Edwin, what do you mean, am I going to get serious? What do you mean, am I going to get serious about it?
I think he meant, is the city going to get serious? Because you can't have 3,000 people showing up to that game again, Brian.
Well, I mean, look. The better question is, can you get Norfolk State and North Carolina Central fans to travel? Do they have enough reach around the Midwest to come to Indianapolis?
But Norfolk is correct me if I'm wrong. It's a pretty easy drive. It's just straight down I-70.
We've made it plenty of times as growing up as a youth. It is an easy drive. You just got to go through the mountains, but it's a 10, 12 hour drive. It's not terribly hard.
It's I-70, correct?
I think it's 70 to 64. It's a good portion of 70, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah. North Carolina Central. So I mean that's Raleigh, right?
Yes.
So that's not terribly hard. Indianapolis.
That's a little zigzagging.
Look, Indianapolis is a great city for an event like this. I'd like to think and hope that the city will get behind it the same way they get behind other big events. Now, part of that is incumbent upon the tournament organizers, the organization known as Indiana Black Expo, which usually runs the event. Now, I think there was uncertainty last year about the game, and it still happened. And I think with them kind of getting these two teams committed this early, hopefully it'll draw. Because who was in it last year? North Carolina Central was in it last year against somebody. Who were they in it against last year?
Valley.
Oh yeah. See, nobody wanted to see that. And who knows? North Carolina Central, if they do well at the beginning of the season in the Orange Blossom Classic against Alabama State, it could put people's eyes. But here's something to think about for North Carolina Central fan base, Drew. Two long distance trips in the month of, in the first, four or 5 weeks of the season.
Correct.
That's interesting. Miami, Indianapolis. And if you ask and I'm just going to keep it real, where's the fan base most likely going to go?
Miami.
That's the hard part. I mean, look, same thing for Norfolk State. Norfolk State, what are they doing at the beginning of the season?
Atlanta. Yes.
Versus Indy. Two choices. Where are you going? Atlanta.
Today. I'm going today.
So I hope the city is really able to reach out to its metro cities in Chicago, Detroit,
Cincinnati,
St. Louis, Louisville. I mean, you hope if you can draw.
And if you draw a 4-hour circle around Indianapolis is like the center of the Midwest.
Well, and that's how
Detroit.
That's what
Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Louisville, Nashville, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and correct me, Pittsburgh. Is Pittsburgh right there?
And none of those cities, Drew, I believe, still have football classics going on.
Yeah.
Right?
So, all those are within, we'll say 5 hours of Indianapolis.
Exactly. So, if you can get those people to come, you got yourself something. Now, you got to be able to advertise the S out of it. I mean, you're going to have to really, really make it. You have to do some advertising in those black media markets to get folk to come. And you better hope that those alumni bases are strong in those areas. That's what you're hoping for. But I'm going to be rooting for it. Maybe I can get up there.
Are you going to be there?
Yeah.
See what I mean?
I have. Look, I got obligations. Come on now. Stop it. All right. What do you got for a final note before we get out of here?
Just looking forward to this last week of SWAC baseball going on. Keep in mind, schedules may be altered this week with some games beginning on Thursday, possibly even Wednesday, moving up to Wednesday because of weather, to make sure that they get these games in. And they'll be playing for seeding, but when you come to that tournament, seeding doesn't matter, Brian, just to be honest with you. Once again, thoughts and prayers out there to those in Tuskegee community and in the Tallahassee community who were affected by the storms this particular weekend. And I did not, Brian, start the podcast off by saying Happy Mother's Day to my own mother, who is still here with us. So I wanted to make sure I close it by saying Happy Mother's Day to my mother and all of the mothers. And I'm gonna throw an extra one out there, Brian, because I did coach girls high school basketball for a while, and a lot of them are grown now. Shout out to my players who become mothers since I coached them. No, ain't none of them babies mine, y'all. But just shout out to those. Shout out to those women, those young ladies that have gone home to start their own kids.
Didn't see that one coming, folks. All right. Just want to remind everyone you can be a part of the Jericho Broadcast Networks by joining our YouTube page, MyJBN Online/join, or you can make a donation to the show either via the Super Chats if you're on YouTube via our JBN channel. You can go ahead and leave a Super Chat. We appreciate you. Or you could make a donation on Cash App, $MyJBN, MyBCSN, just in case you have any late birthday shout outs or wishes, anything you didn't get in to me on Monday, you can always send it into the show. just thought I'd say that. But anyway, MyJBN, MyBCSN on Cash App.
Post-dated birthday gifts.
Post-dated birthday gifts are accepted. Post-dated Teacher Appreciation Week gifts are accepted. Yeah, so good stuff. Should be another great week in the NBA. I think the WNBA is starting up this week, so that'll be fun to kind of watch the ratings bonanza for the Caitlin Clark show and my Indiana Fever.
Can we watch a game that doesn't feature Caitlin Clark?
You're gonna get like it this year. No, you're gonna get about 38 games every night. There will be practically a game featuring the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark.
And Angel Reese only has one primetime game.
Well, look, if she does more ads
with Aaliyah Boston on the same team. Let's get out of here before I start going down into a rabbit hole.
Where were you? Okay. Anyway, I didn't know where you were going with that, but anyway, I don't. All right. Thank you guys for your support. Hit the thumbs up and the like button wherever you are watching the show. If you're watching the show, sorry about it was going on Instagram. Instagram's having issues. So for some reason, the feed got cut off on the Instagram live. But it is on X. Thank you to everybody watching us on X. You can always be a part of the show, BCSN Pod Zone. If you are a podcast listener, we encourage you, please pick up the BCSN Pod Zone, add it to your feeds, so that way you can listen to the show, download the show, rate and review. If you're on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all of those places which you love and listen to podcasts, you can pick up all of the shows that are part of the Black College Sports Network right there on the BCSN Pod Zone. Tuesday and Thursday nights, Dr. Cavill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. You have to stay tuned to find out who's hosting. Wednesday, catch the O&G Strike Zone, 8 p.m. Eastern, talking all things FAMU athletics. And then on Saturdays, catch the Carlos Brown Show. Carlos and the guys, Charles Edmonds, Coach Van Pettaway, A.D. Wheeler Brown, and others will, not only talk Southern athletics, but also HBCU and SWAC sports. So always a good show, great conversations. Thank you to everybody for listening, for watching, thumbs up, reviewing. We really do appreciate you supporting our content. And so for A.D. Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. Thank you for watching tonight. Thank you again, Charles Edmond, for joining us. And we will say sayonara. Good night.
Peace out, everybody. Have a light. We'll holler.
But you stay hard.